Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay, and welcome to episode number 167, kind of FinalBossTV. One of the last times you may ever see and or hear that intro that just popped up. I don't have my other little lower third on this sequence. I had to rebuild some stuff for this show, but it's not really a big deal because if you don't know who I am by now and you're still watching my nonsense, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. But that show intro is going to be changing soon. A whole bunch of stuff I just went over in the recent Patreon BTS podcast that was just yesterday. But today's show was a sort of a sub-point goal unlock that has happened many, many moons ago, and I finally haven't gotten around to organizing and putting together and getting the time to actually properly sit down with you and talk about all this stuff and go over everything and sort of lift the veil on this huge project that was a huge figurehead, cornerstone, or goal of the channel way back in the day. But we do have some special guests coming on the show today for little segments, I would say, just little segments. They'll be in voice only, but they'll be just, you know, here a little bit there, a little bit here. We'll talk about stuff today, and we'll go over everything and sort of answer any questions you have about the project and if ever coming to light or what it needs to be done to happen. And I plug it here and there, but I never really have sat down and openly discussed and talked about it in this regard. So this is the first show in that sense that I will then just sort of blab about. And if you have questions in chat, we'll talk about whatever we can talk about. So I'll answer whatever we have to go over, and it should be enough to hopefully discuss every little bit and piece about this huge project, and of course anything that's around the entire thing. But I made some special scenes for this, so we're going to be watching and looking at everything over here. So hi chat, you're right there. Hi. And then if you didn't know, this is a FinalBossTV production. We have half of my desktop background because we'll look at all the assets we have here. So as a audio podcast, if you're listening right now on the audio streams, it might be a little bit difficult to understand, but obviously you could discern information. But of course, head over to either the Twitch VOD or watch the streams live, or of course the archive version on YouTube. But then of course the watermark you're seeing there is kind of hard to discern, but it is actually the new BFA medallion that will be coming out for the channel branding here not too long, but that's on the horizon there as well. But because I have to make sure, even though I trust you guys, I don't trust the rest of the internet with some of the things I'm going to show off today, because many of the assets we're going to go over and talk about and discuss and show off are for a project that is basically owned, written, run, produced by a certain number of very special nerds, and we don't want our stuff to get stolen in case we ever actually get around to finally producing and putting together this massive project. So yeah, so sexy, the watermark. Hi Nobbel, we're all guests now. Hi Reddit, hi YouTube. Yeah, basically. But I mean, this is also, I think, outside of my dev interview shows that I've done on the channel, I think this is the first, and I felt weird doing it, this is the first stream, and many of you might be trying to talk, I don't know how many in the live show, I chat on sub mode, because as with my stance on ever doing a sub mode thing, obviously sub mode helps for like a dev interview or a special interview where we can't keep up with chat, it might be spammed by a lot of nonsense. This stream, this project, and the reason I'm sitting here is because of many of these nerds you're going to see right down in this chat box. So it makes sense that it's on sub mode, because literally, physically, digitally, figuratively, whatever illy you want to talk about, I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for these folks down here. So that's the long and short of it, right? I'd still be working at the hospital. I'd still be slaving away as like a one-man production crew or a part of a production team. So I wouldn't be doing this today if I wasn't for, yeah. Can we get some final lefts in chat? Here, I'll even add to that. There we go. But I'll start this off with let's start a GoFundMe for Bay to make Warcrimes. See, I don't know that as a first question or a statement, Kem, that comes up a lot. Why don't you do a GoFundMe, or why don't you do a Kickstarter for this project? Part of me has thought about it for a very long time. The only issue is that I would rather what I do speak for my passion and drive and commitment to make what I do here and then extend beyond that, right? So I'd rather have just what I do here build up enough that I can just divert my own funds, because I run my own company, right? I have my own LLC and had it for over 4 years. And I have multiple different artists that have worked with me and through my company. I obviously have a manager now. Hi, Z. And it's grown to a point where I'd rather have that. I don't want to divert attention to a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe. I'd rather just have enough stability and growth within the Final Boss TV umbrella directly and what I've done that can create this project. The early monetary stuff, I actually have, it's funny, I have like a bunch of like just on paper notes from back in the day that I used to write down my thoughts and like some early discussion points about creating Warcrimes. And it's a short film. It's roughly in the ballpark of like a small indie film, and depending on how things look now, my original estimate was roughly like $25,000 to $30,000, but I think I'd probably have to put that around like $50,000 to $60,000. Any short film, small budget movie production in any regard, especially an animated one, I would almost safely want to double that amount, because you don't have no idea how much extra might happen or how many bumps in the road may coincide with the production. So I don't think I could feasibly create Warcrimes as its original intended purpose and vision and pay everyone involved, the artists, the 3D modelers, the voice actors. Some of the voice actors would be from the community, so obviously their fees would be different than the actual other bigger name voice actors that I had attached to the project that I've actually physically talked to, like on the phone or whatever, their agents. And like they cost money per page of dialogue. So it's very difficult to try to put into perspective and not see like it's, oh, that's way too expensive. Why is it so expensive? Blah, 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 blah. Right? So there'd be so many moving parts of this, and because of my background in film and how much I've known about working in the industry, at least in small budget stuff, if a small, crude little documentary commercial piece for a hospital can cost $8,000 for like a 90-second news spot, this is basically turning a book, or two books, sorry, a segment of a book, Tides of War, an actual book, Warcrimes by Christy Golden, and which is the main purpose of this, and of course the Hellscream short story, all into a cohesive 10-part series. Basically, we're making a film and then chopping it up. So each episode would have essentially a bill associated with it. And that would be something that would come up with like later on, and getting a line producer to figure all that madness out. But that's the biggest thing, is that it's just a lot of it comes down to money, because I'd find the time. I would find the time. So, but that's roughly what it would cost nowadays. Like, first off, like right off the bat with my voice actor stuff, just getting out of all this stuff openly. RIP headphone users? Oh no, was there like an audio glitch? That's unfortunate. So obviously we can't have any of the voice actors that do voice acting for these characters through Blizzard do fan stuff. There is a potential, but you have to go through Blizzard to get permission. They have to also okay the project. And then there's all the different fees and costs associated with that, licensing, all this madness, right? There's so much stuff, which could be a potential. Like, to get so like Patrick Seitz, who actually is the voice of Garrosh, to do Garrosh, that would be a huge different thing, right? Just an absolutely wild ride to get done. So we have to either find other voice actors that are within a budgetary potential, or voice actors in our community that are strong enough to take on these roles. So like the first name that I wrote down that I originally thought of, because let me double check something here, because I am pretty sure, and again, this all comes down to like the logistics and trying to make this all happen was a huge thing. But where is that tweet? Because I'm trying to figure out, there was something that came up a little while ago. Where did that go? There is, I was trying to find out, like the first, obviously one of the biggest casting potentials for what we're trying to tell in the Warcrimes story is who would voice Jaina, right? And that came up way back in the day to who would voice one of the lead characters. And I originally thought, I mean, there'd be no way. I don't know where that tweet went. I have no idea. Can't figure it out. I brought up Janet Varney, which she's the voice of Korra from Legend of Korra. And we also talked about Grey Delisle. Now, Grey, she has done some voices for World of Warcraft, but they wouldn't be the voices that we would cast her for. And then I even brought up, let me see. I even brought up Felicia Day as well for other voice acting potential. Even Michelle Morrow came up. Like, there is a lot of things because we couldn't get Laura Bailey to do Jaina. I don't think that's possible, right? It'd be amazing to do so. I mean, there was a fan film that was made, earlier this year, end of last year, that was a Nathan Drake Uncharted fan film with Nathan Fillion. So some small student-based indie production got Nathan Fillion locked in for a live-action role. I just don't know how all of that. I would need a copyright artist to know, or a business communication line. And that, again, it's all back to money. So, Konik is saying he could do Jaina. My rates are pretty good for voice acting. It'd be realistic for me to voice her. Interesting. You don't say. Hi, Jay. What's up? Even Jay right there. Jay could make, actual music for this too, or parts of it. I thought Nathan Fillion was a producer on that Uncharted thing too. Well, he probably had higher crediting to be a producer as well. Producers have a lot of power on projects. People think directors have a lot of the power on the project. Like for the Warcrimes project, for this, if I was going to be director and writer or co-writer, because I would not write this myself. I would have to have people that would write this with me. I would not want to be a producer on it. I would not want that power to be in my hands. I would want other people to be the producers, to have the outside look, to help make sure the project comes together and I don't get lost on my own farts. So, as someone who works with the voice actors from Overwatch, that is one of the contract rules. What is, Jay? Oh, Blizzard's contracted voice actors are not allowed to say voice lines of their characters that aren't in-game. Yeah. See, there's something along that lines. They have to be for Blizzard projects only. So, yeah, that's the thing. Hi, Letomi. What did you call me? So I don't get lost in my own farts. Exactly. So I don't pull a George Lucas and make the prequels. I mean, obviously this project is not as, lofty as the prequels, but still. That's still the funny part. But this started so long ago. So I'll bring, this is the interesting initial point. I actually had to find this for me. So this was actually the tweet that, because Christy Golden saw the teaser trailer for the Warcrimes production back in the day. This is January 14th, 2015. It's already 3 years ago, man. And we've been planning to put this together for a very long time, and I definitely would love to do so. It's just that it's a huge production. And the only major thing that's come out of this, well, we'll go through all the different little bits and pieces here. And again, we have some special guests to bring on to have their little talking points about this too. Oh, Jay, that's another question we'll get into in a little bit. Z helped me organize one of her earliest things as not my manager, but a friend of mine helped me work on this stuff back in the day. The emails folder we have and all the correspondence to just voice actors alone is probably well over 100 candidates. So that was years ago, right? But I think at any given time, Z, do you actually have access still? Where is that old spreadsheet we made? I'd love to bring that up on screen. Where's that? Can you find the old spreadsheet for us that actually had all of our roles, voice actors, characters, potentials, all that stuff written in there? That would be fun. That's the one thing I don't have pulled up right now. Spreadsheet, yes, because she loves spreadsheets. So, but do you think Justine Iyer could do Jaina? I don't know who that is, actually. Like, first off, to me, I was like, Janet Varney, I'm in, because I fell in love with Korra. That was an amazing piece, and in the lore of where Jaina's character was at the time, definitely years before any of this stuff happened. Right now, with like the Warbringer stuff in Battle for Azeroth, there are so many key points. I still think that maybe Nobbel agrees with me. I know Letomi might agree with me as well on this, is that there's so many points that happened in the arc of Warbringers that were tied to that overarching story that changed so much of our entire, like, we wouldn't have done Legion without the events of Garrosh and Kairos Dormu. Like, we wouldn't be here. Like, all the stuff, that's where they pushed all the story. So the Tides of War audiobook narrator. Oh, interesting. I mean, again, like, that would be, these are all things to Warcrimes, not bringers. Mia, I'm talking about the, are you crossing the streams? But let me see, did Z find it? Let me see if Z found this giant spreadsheet. Oh, you totally did find it. Yeah, Warcrimes, crew, and cast listings. Oh my gosh, yeah. This is old. When was the last edit of this? Oh my gosh. When was the last edit of this? I'll bring this up on screen in a little bit. This is crazy. This is actually crazy. Well, of course I found it. Never doubt the Z. All right. Well, I am going to bring in, let me change my volume in here real quick. I thought I had a little more time to ramble, but I don't. So I'm going to bring in, just to get, because my partner in crime for this, the first person I went to that I wanted to talk to about all the Warcrimes production stuff was this nerd. I mean, this is, you know, come on. Let me get him on the line real quick and wanted his take on what this entire bit was going to be. Let me just, you know, push this button right here.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi. You have reached 0900 Noble.
Wait, is that your actual, is that your, that's not real.
What is not real? What?
Are you, hi buddy, how are you doing?
Are you asking me if I really have a hotline that you can call? No, not really.
Can you make one? Can someone make one?
I mean, you have my number, right?
I think I do.
Instant hotline.
Wait, it's Nobbel? Let me get my surprised face. Wow. Wow. Damn.
And we do need a lore hotline, yeah. Yeah, sorry for rushing you, but like in
No,
20
you're
minutes,
fine.
I gotta sit down for another thing.
No, you're totally okay. That's why I thought you were doing your best of the other things voice when you answered the call there. I didn't know if you were prepping for I don't want to spoil your segment you're doing, so.
Oh, no, this beautiful voice right here, that's just a cold that I'm still dealing with for like 2 weeks now.
Damn.
PreachCon left me with a nice little gift, honestly.
Well, different gifts for different people. I don't think either any. But that's. I don't want to, because you have another engagement coming up. But I mean, I know you were sitting in chat and listening to all this, and I know we talked about. I bet we could dive back into our DMs from like forever ago, but
snap. Okay.
Well, I'm not going to right now. I'm gonna bring over the cast and crew listing here and just kind of go through this while we talk for a little bit, because this was sort of like one of the first things. Oh gosh, I can't fit this on the screen right. There we go. This was one of the first major projects that I know, like after you and I like started, making out, we started talking about this, pillow talk, that kind of stuff. But do you like, what's your takeaway now to make something like this actually happen? Because this is I don't know if have you seen this crew list, by the way? I don't know if you have the stream pulled up right now real quick too, but like I'm going through, we had the production crew, other crew, sound, graphic artists, 2D artists, the 3D artists, the different color coding on who was doing what and where, all these different people in the community that had reached out to us and what they were using at the time. We had confirmed voice actors. So we had Letomi for Tyrande, we had Duck Sauce for Bane, we had Matthew Silverblatt for a whole bunch of characters, we had Charm for Alex Straza. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I had talked to Jesse Cox, he was going to be Tyrande, who is the judge of the entire proceeding. That was going to be so good.
Of course.
But then we had the pending voice actors down here: Janet Varney, Patrick Seitz, which that was not going to happen once we figured that out. Later on, Great Lyle, Felicia Day, oh man, look up Elsbeth for Varisa. Man,
I don't think I even knew Elsbeth back then. That's incredible. Huh.
Yeah, I had talked to so many people, and if they're like other voice actor talent, I had talked to their agency. Felicia's is red right here because she was like moving and changing studios, something back. This is like, again, 3 years ago. So there are so many people on this. I mean, how do you think we can do this? Could this be? Is this a possibility? Could we actually pull this off at some point in time?
I mean, if you toss enough money and time at it, anything's possible, right? But I think the bigger question would be, do you want to go so big for a platform like YouTube?
Right.
And I think when you first announced all your ideas and your plans, I think that was my first thought. Like, this sounds really, really cool. And when you showed that preview, I was like, this is insane and incredible. But I wonder if this is ever going to happen for a YouTube kind of thing.
Yeah. Because there have been some other huge machinimas that have been created before, and even if we can bring it back up, I'm not going to play it on stream today because I'm sure all of us involved have heard it way too often. When we made On My Own way back in the day as our first foray into this with the old busted models, and it took us like 8 to 9 months to make a 3.5-minute music video. That was ridiculous. And we had learned so much about there. And obviously everything has improved and we were working on all this other stuff to make Warcrimes a thing. But for the platform go ahead.
Yeah, it's a massive project, man. Just look at what other more machinimated lore channels do. It takes so much time to produce something like 5 minutes. Imagine what you have in your mind. Like, we're going to do the entire thing. And it's going to be multiple chapters. Think Game of Thrones. Like, it's super ambitious and it's really, really cool. But I really wonder.
Well, here, I also have this old nugget that you gave me back in the day that'll bring up on screen real quick here. You may remember this if I can get it to size on the screen properly. This is a really rough document. It actually breaks like right here. So I just stopped spacing all the stuff out. This is a document that Nobbel gave me of what his take on a lot of the individual main storylines would be during Warcrimes. So we started breaking this down in a really rough early format. The document, this was created the 6th of February 2015, 9:40 p.m. These are all the different, like, who takes the stand: Velen, Mushroom Vendor, Sarfang, Vol'jin, Thrall, Alex Straza, Gakorg, Stormhoof, Jaina, Varian, final statements, and then we have each chapter. You broke down all the main things that happened in each chapter for me, and we were going to go through all of those. It goes through all the way up to 38. Like all of this.
I think Letomi did like all the work afterwards, right? Like I think this is my major contribution to this. I sent you my Warcrimes script that I used for my own video, and I sent you this, and the rest was Letomi just working her butt off.
Yeah, we had figured out a lot of, because we have to obviously distill the book to its key moments. We also wanted to integrate the Jaina B story with Kindy, which was like 2 to 3 different parts to weave in that way important story point for her that's never been told before outside of Tides of War. The opening of this was going to be the Hellscream short story where Kairos gets viscerally murdered as the shock factor to start the show with. And then we were going to have all the key points of the trial, and then we needed 2 episodes for the Battle of the Temple of the White Tiger. We needed 1 extra episode after that for the actual wrap-up, which...
Because, of course, we do.
Yeah, so... And all we wanted to do, like 15-minute episode 1 and like a 15-minute episode 10, and then all the episodes were roughly 10-ish minutes long. That was the original night that Tyrande told me back in the day when I first met Tyrande Gregory at BlizzCon 4 years ago, basically, and talked to him about this, is how long each episode should be, and if you should make it as an episodic or make it as an actual short film, and which version would be better. Because you brought up how, like, should we go this hard for YouTube? And this, to me, almost seems like it's like a YouTube Red production.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how to even to go about doing that. So,
getting a YouTube Red exclusive, yeah. Good luck with that one.
Exactly. So,
yeah, it's incredible though. Like, but from your perspective, do you think it's a possibility for the project? Because I know you had some hardships along the way. I know that much.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's a possibility?
I mean, I don't want to go back to your first opening point. Throw enough money and time at something, it can happen. I don't think that's like the logistical part of this. Like that's the producer brain part of me that comes into play, because like we would need the technology behind the scenes and the artists, like the 3D modelers and animators, to make this happen. Just because, as much as I've bugged Tyrande about why don't they have machinima tools for content creators outside of this, because there's very many ways that you can make machinima, but a lot of it is just like model viewer, green screen, like superimposing in After Effects, but that wouldn't work for Warcrimes. We need to be able to physically, in 3ds Max, Maya, whichever, build these sets and have our puppets in the actual environments, like what Tyrande does when they make their in-game cinematics. So, but they have that's all proprietary internal for his team, and they won't release it. And that was
he didn't want to share his toys with you.
I know, right? And that's our biggest hurdle, is how do we get that accomplished? If that could be a actual thing, that we'd have the tech to get the models, and I'm going to go over a lot of concept art here that some people have seen, some people haven't, and of course you got to go off and do your own little thing here in a little bit, but that part of the modeling process, and even what Letomi and I did and what you helped with on my own, making our own Jaina, which was a huge undertaking in the first place. We had some amazing art on that. And that was one model. And we have dozens of key models in Warcrimes, and even some that have multiple wardrobe changes. Mostly Tyrande. Mostly Tyrande.
Oh, yeah. Lawyer suit. Have you spoken to Kalis about any of this?
Kalis, well, she's on the docket. She was on the docket for some of this. I mean, she was part of the key creation of On My Own as well. So but the thing is, it's nothing that Kalis can do by herself. This is like, it needs a team.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This is like 4 to 6 3D artists, I would think, to be comfortable, because there would be a shot list breakdown, there would be all these things to composite, put together, and of course all that stuff doesn't happen until we actually have the tech to get the models, get the rigging, get the building blocks, get the texture designers and the artists to build all the models and all the new like costumes and stuff for all these characters. Yeah. Oh, Letomi says, I'm sure Terran wants to share, but Blizzard Entertainment Activision like having those toys for themselves. Yeah. Yeah.
It would be nice to get like an actual model viewer for WoW, though. It would be really good.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that you alluded to having problems, and that the Warcraft 3D tool that I financed and was getting produced for this project specifically still exists. Its code's still there. And one of my code monkeys that is part of my community has all the files. So that's a project that I'll definitely bring up somewhere in this show, that if they are programmers interested in trying to break that down, if R4 is in chat, he can obviously lay out what the problems are with the back end of it now, because if that can exist, that was a tech program that was being put together to actually pull the models out of the new cask file system in WoW with their inherent rigging and be able to convert it into a format for 3ds Max or Maya. So
what you just said sounds like hocus pocus to me. What it sounds
You're absolutely correct. It is hocus pocus, but it would be something that needs to be done before everything else. So honestly, I think if Warcrimes is to be a thing, the first step is to get that done.
And what's stopping you from getting that done?
Well, that's the first step, honestly. And it's finding people that have the time to figure it out, to do all the hand coding, the testing, the conversion of the cask system out into actual real files. The thing is too, is that whole suite would be free for the community. Like, once we get it figured out and it works, it would be shareware, basically. Like, branded, you know, stamped that our names are on it, but then shareware for everybody else. So, because that would be a huge benefit, because the Warcraft model viewer, the WoW model viewer tool that's been out for so long that kind of works. You use it, it kind of works, right?
When it feels like it, yes.
yeah, see? I want to make a better version of that for any creator, any digital artist, 3D artist, any 2D artist that needs to pull models out, that wants to paint over them and use them as references. So like that's definitely the first step.
So you need coders, is what I'm getting.
Code programmers, yeah, people that speak that language that I don't, and to turn that into a realistic thing. Because if we can get that to work, I think that's our first step. Because we as a community in general need something like that that is more powerful than what the machinima tool creators have now. And if you bring up like War of the Ancients, that was built back in the day, that huge long like 2-hour machinima, that was built inside the Warcraft 3 engine by importing the character models into that engine and then using its camera tools in like the map editor, which is, that's so old school. It boggles my mind that it was even created. This can't do that. This needs to be beyond. So, oh, there's R4. R4 says you need someone that can write the code to decrypt the WoW index files correctly.
That's what you need. So go get somebody.
Yeah. Go get somebody. Yeah.
And the second the code gets made, you know they're going to change decryption.
Yeah. That's the tough part. It's weird because you and I do a ton of obviously WoW-oriented content. Letomi's right there as well. And Blizzard has like a really open-ended hands-off to their IP when people make stuff and make YouTube videos or use assets of theirs. They don't care. But then there's also this like brick wall on other things like this. Like actually being able to use their models, and people that like brute force through to make machinima right now, like Nixium, Mukluk. They have their own way of doing it, but it definitely probably could be easier or better for them if we had better tools, you know?
Yeah. Well, you still want to make this project a thing then, I take it.
I mean, it would be...
Ooh, what a silence. Ooh.
It would be a lot of fun. Well, I'm looking at the crew list again on my other monitor. It's something that I've been really... I mean, it would be my first, because this is, you know, being a broadcaster, being a YouTuber is definitely a thing, right? Being a show host. But that's that's not like where the passion lies. Like my passion is film. Like I've been having an absolute blast doing the cinematic analysis for the recent the Warbringer short and the Old Soldier short. Like it reignites the fact that like I would love to put together something of my own with my friends that also want to put together something of that's just more than like a, you know, talking head piece or a live stream or, you know, whatnot. That's what I want to do though. So
all right. Like on a side note, by the way, it's good to be into the lore right now, man. Hot damn, people are into the lore.
yeah, well, into the lore, or it's a complete shit show, depending on what side of the fence you're on.
A little bit of at least gets people talking again. Like it's Wrathgate all over. What got me into the lore was Wrathgate, and this is getting people into the lore, and I freaking love it.
Right. So they have already given us the decryption keys. What makes a control is you need an active internet connection to the servers as part of the key that they hold. See, this is all verbiage that I'm just like, okay, you know, like what does that mean to me and to the project?
An Old Soldier is probably going to be in the game next week, though, Neo. It's probably going to be the introduction into the siege.
Oh, it'll probably be when you start the quest, it'll queue that up in game. Yeah, that's probably fair. Yep, we'll definitely see. But I mean, of course, I definitely would love to put this together and make it. But I'm gonna keep going through more stuff. I will let you go off to your other project, you busy boy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for setting Dobby free. Yay!
What? What's wrong with you?
Everything, babe.
Oh gosh. But
bye.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon. And he's gone. Oh my goodness. Thanks for stopping by, Nobbel. Indeed. Yeah. What is this? Oh, the WoW Dev Cask IDX header. I don't see. We basically need like a team of programmers and code monkeys that love to get in there and mess it all up and fix it. And a lot of changes have come since the merger with Activision with like assets and stuff like that. Jay, you would probably know about this as well for sure. Also, Letomi asked me a question about On My Own a while ago, and I was talking to Nobbel. What was it? Oh, that was a big project and it came out really well. Do you feel like it came back financially, emotionally, etc. for you in regards to On My Own? I don't want to talk about financials for that one, but I mean, emotionally wise, we definitely learned a lot. I think it's like any filmmaker, if I'm going to call myself a fledgling filmmaker. I mean, I've made lots of pieces for when I worked at Florida Hospital, but I've never made a film, and that's obviously a music video. But we definitely did a lot with what we had at the time, and we learned a lot with the project overall. But I think it was mostly the biggest learning experience. It was like when I made my 16mm film back in college. It's terrible, but it's supposed to be terrible. You put in a lot of this work beforehand to build this project that you look back on years later and you've learned from. So I think that's the biggest takeaway from On My Own, and it stands up. It's pretty good. I think the point that still gets me, I think I lost a lot of time with, was that for some reason I feel like I rushed the sound design portion of On My Own for some reason, and that should have been better, which is, you know, we learn from that, we can move forward. That's why, again, there is so many people on this potential crew list that we didn't have sound team yet, right? We had Steve Clint, we had Starcadian, who made the initial mix down score, the trailer score, and then we also had Dawson, who was going to work on some music additions. So we have those three people. That was it, right? We didn't have sound designers yet. There's still more people to be involved. So I mean, there's over like 30 people on this crew list. If you haven't seen this yet, I'll bring it up on screen again. If you missed part of it when I was talking to Nobbel, is that this this is our tentative like first draft of the crew list we had here, and there's just an obscene number of people. First off, it was very humbling to actually get that much community reach out, that this many people were wanting to be involved with the different parts of the production of Warcrimes. They wanted to be a part of this because some people weren't going to get much more than the experience / exposure, right? Everyone's gonna get paid financially in some way, but that wasn't really the point they wanted to. They wanted to work on this, to work on something that was bigger. I take away the guest voice. Nobbel's not here anymore. So there's a lot of moving parts. That's why when people bring up this before and why I don't know how this can be a thing, this can all be worked out later. That's what Nobbel brought up, right? All of that can be worked out later. All of the ins and outs of the who's and the what's and the who's doing what and this and that other thing, that can be worked out. And the story can be worked out. The script can be worked out. I think the technology has to be figured out first. And I think if that's the thing that can definitely be figured out, then we can move forward with everything else. Because if we don't have the means to do this, then we can't make it happen the way we want to. Because we're basically looking at trying to make Warcrimes the same sort of quality and fidelity, albeit fan-made to some degree, obviously, that's what we are, to what Tyrande and his team do with the in-game cinematics, right? So it has come up a few times, however, that is that too difficult? And making it a 3D machinima, a rendered piece, because I even had talked to some contacts back at my college to use their mocap studio to motion capture either facial features of like just myself reading certain lines of dialogue to help the 3D artists create the faces. Because in a lot of machinima, you'll see they do a lot of like the pre-rendered things in the game, right? How many times have you seen the same lip flaps from like the human male with like the hand that goes like blah blah and then blah blah and then blah blah and then oh and then blah blah and then blah blah oh, like that's all they do, right? Because they're not actually using the models. They're just using the model with the the pre-made prefab stuff. So the other option that has come up a few times, and I think this could be equally as powerful, but I don't think it would be as narratively punchy, which is fine, within budgets and within reason. I have to, understand the limits of here, is making Warcrimes like a Warbringer short, or like, Xiao Hao, or the that sort of the 2.5D style that Blizzard has created, like the painterly moving flat, but the 2.5D art created pieces, like the Jaina short recently, of course, and of course the Savannah short, and then of course the Harbinger ones for Legion. That has come up a few times. That one is easier, but presents its own problems. First off, do you have one artist do all of the creation to keep it in the same style? I know that there's obviously a team of artists that do it at Blizzard, and that would obviously cut down on a lot of the logistics of the 3D modeling and the environment, stuff like that. You'd obviously want to have environmental artists, and you'd have environmental plates that you'd put the foreground action on. You'd have character artists that create the characters. Obviously, less frames of animation to a degree with how they talk, because you're not animating lip flaps, you're animating key points in that. That's come up before in making it sort of like that 2.5D almost animated comic style. And that one has interested me as well. They're just two very different mediums. Obviously, you still need the scripting and the voice acting and all that stuff, but you lose the need for the modeling work. You lose the need for the 3D technology for the machinima style. So I don't know if that is the way to go or not, because I know there's a few artists out there that I would be able to contact. It would take them the better part of a year though to like roundabout think the timeline for them. They would have to essentially devote a year of their life or lives to this, because there will be, I didn't go through like on the Sylvanas or Jaina one. If I could go through and count all the shots, I'm sure it's like reasonable, but to make 10 multi-part episodes, roughly 10 minutes long each, especially 2 episodes being a war sequence, there's so much art to make. That's the other hurdle in that regard. Because once you actually have 3D models and you're in there and you're poking models and you have rigging and boning and all this kind of stuff going on, animating that kind of becomes a streamlined situation. You can plop your puppets in, you can, do all your stuff like that, and you animate your foregrounds and you do all your keyframing and whatever, you go from there. Hand or digitally hand animating all of those shots, the moving pieces, the 2.5D illustration stuff has its own hurdle. So oh, I teased about that earlier as well, Letomi, to Jay. Absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm feeling an urge to listen to Warcrimes again. Yeah. Could you use part of the model viewer from WowDB or no? No, Karen. No, you could not. The program we need to make this work, if we make it a 3D piece, would have to be very much in our control to pull out full models, armor, all the X, Y, and Z connection points, and the boning, the rigging of the models, the bones, the structure of the models. So, but the 2 main options are to do either one. I don't know which one I prefer. That would have to come up in like a production meeting. So, but I think either way would be great. I just think the programming side would be way more difficult than the art version side. It also depends, like, if I try to make Warcrimes, I mean, there's no way, no one's going to sync this like that, right? I'm not copying Blizzard, because it wouldn't even be the same. They use like a brush stroke painterly style in their Warbringers shorts and stuff like that, which actually looks kind of rough. Like, it's not very refined, probably because that's the style they're going for ever since Emperor Xiao Hao stuff. So I don't know what version we would go or how our style would be defined. It depends on our artist, right? It would depend on the artist we have at hand. So definitely see. That's a big one. But I was going to say, I was going to show this off before Nobbel jumped in. I wanted to, of course, bring up, let me change the scene real quick here. I wanted to actually, it's apply the scene change. The big point of how this started and how I went forward and actually had, and I got in touch with an actual composer that put together an original parodied score for the trailer. And additionally, like, I actually have KMD, Care Motion Designs, did the trailer for this. I'm looking back through assets here in this email chain we had. There are some interesting ways that they were pulling out files and scenes from the game. But Care Motion Designs, Starcadian, we put together the trailer, which I'm sure many of you have seen before, but it still really holds up, I would say, as its own piece. But we're going to watch that right now to sort of hone back in on the fact that things were moving for this project and this was created. And I only imagine what else could be built from this moving forward. So let me bring this up real quick.
you ever wanted to rewrite history? To go back, fix mistakes, do it better? What if it were possible to shape and mold time as you would a ball of clay? What possibilities await? What new worlds could we create?
Coming 2016. Oh man. Started work on Warcrimes in 2014. Holy crap, coming 2016 though. What year is it? What year is it? Yeah, 2016. Yeah, exactly. It sounds rough but smooth. So there was a bit of back and forth on how to render out. So that's Callum Sam Noble that did the audio for that, and he was doing Kairos. So he had here. I'll bring up his script. Right, we had this full script created for the intro. So Warcrimes 2014 promo teaser, blah, blah, blah. This is by Nobbel and I wrote this. It was performed by Callum Noble. So we were thinking of the runtime with music being 60 seconds, the voiceover 35. We had all this stuff worked out. So we had these scenes, close-up micro shots, the vision of time, fade in and out between black pseudo movements of the dragon holding the hourglass sands, animate but never seen to empty or fill either globe. And then Kairos Dormer, the keeper of time and bronze dragon, speaks softly in monologue. After conclusion of the sequence and shots and dialogue, white text on black credits to FTB? Typo? Insertion of title card, possible, if completed for project, however not required. So this is the script that we cut down to. We had a lot more extra parts of this. This is the cut script. Here's the full original script. We had extra bits that were put together, get out of here, that were put together for this. So we had this whole middle part to try to like show the ridiculousness of Kairos. So yeah, standards are re-record, try to take a slower take, can be sped up or slowed down yeah, he did 4 different takes of this. So which one is the proper one that he gave us? Let me see. Uh-oh. What's this one to open with? Ah, frig. That's weird. Let me see here. You have all these different assets that are in these folders.
Have you ever wanted to rewrite history? To go back, fix mistakes, do it better? What if it were possible to shape and mold time as you would a ball of clay?
There's so many other takes. What's his first take real quick on this? Oh, ew, what is this?
Have you ever wanted to rewrite history? To go back, fix mistakes, do it better? Who would deny themselves the opportunity?
This is the other part that was cut.
So, what if you actually could? In the past, my flag made sure that the sands of time fell, grain by grain, precisely as it should. And even after preventing the hour of twilight, our gift over time has been lost. What if it were possible to shape and mold time as you would a ball of clay? What possibilities await? What new worlds could we create?
So fast, yeah. Yeah, Letomi, so fast, exactly.
This was ever wanted to rewrite history?
This is take 3.
To go back, fix mistakes, do it better. Who would deny themselves the opportunity?
Gosh, the part that got me with Callum to make him do that he won the role of doing Kairos, because Kairos has more dialogue in the actual short, is that way he laughs, because obviously his accent, but also because he has like this smarmy suredliness to himself that could really portray Kairos really well.
Who would deny themselves the opportunity?
It's so good.
So, what if you actually could? In the past, my flag made sure that the sands of time fell, grain by grain, precisely as it should. And even after preventing the hour of twilight, our gift over time has been lost.
Yeah, he sounds dark, but not threatening. Yeah, because Kairos was kind of like actually batshit crazy, but at the same time, like not really. So here's, I think this was the finished cut version. Let me see.
Have you ever wanted to rewrite history?
Yeah.
To go back, fix mistakes, do it better?
We just cut his cadence to like be a little slower with the cuts because he was speaking it too fast. Like he didn't leave breaks, but that's fine.
Who would deny themselves the opportunity? So, what if you
Because you just cut. This is all just squished together. VO
actually could? Time, the Titan's gift to us. In the past, my flight had complete control. We made sure that time passed, grain by grain, precisely as it should. The hour of twilight was even prevented, but at what cost? We can no longer see clearly, and if we cannot see, then how do we know which path to take?
This is all extra scripting that was all cut. That's crazy. There's so much that just gets removed that we got down to the actual final version. But he has this. Yeah, the go back, fix mistakes was definitely too fast in the first takes. Oh, absolutely was. It totally was. We have this is the previs mix down of the audio here. So there was a early version of the teaser trailer that was going to be sort of a WoW parody style. So you're going to hear WoW themed bits that are all smushed together in here. So this was the Warcrimes intro previs. So this was just a rough teaser that Starcadian made. We were trying to figure out different theming points of the Warcraft music to give us some brainstorming ideas. There's a lot of different parts of that we stitched together. If you go back to the trailer on like the end part, that's what we kept. So there was also a rough music teaser we had put together. Which part of this did we make? Let me see. Okay, and that from like the WoW version, we made the Starcadian music rough teaser for the actual trailer, which is this part. So there's two things happening here that were narrative hooks. I don't want to keep pausing, but I have to like director commentary, right? If you are a film nerd, you're going to hear the Jaws theme in a way, right? The sort of, not exactly the da-da, but the in and out sequence of the music, right? The heavy string background of that sort of like Jaws style. But if you also pay attention, you might not be able to hear it behind the down compress here on Twitch, but there is an echoing sort of breathing noise that is because the vision of time that is being shown off in this trailer, which you just watched with me, is obviously a dragon. It's two bronze dragons intertwined forever in an infinity symbol. And that's what that Chromie uses and the dragons use to travel through time. So we always thought that the vision of time, and even as this description, it was always not an animate object. So if you listen, you can sort of hear the breathing tones of like a giant inhale and an exhale in a musical term of like a dragon breathing. Different. So that was one of the early mix downs. There are definitely parts that are not there that came in the final edit. So musically, it's hugely impressive, clearly related to WoW. Well, yeah, but it's not, it's all his own creation. It's all what we built together through many, many trials and errors. So it was a lot going on there. Those are the intro mixes that I have backed up here. So, considering what time it is, I've already been about it for an hour. I don't want this episode to be too damn long. I still have one more special guest to bring on. So, that's what makes it so impressive. We did work. I mean, I went out. So Cara Motion Designs and the meetings I had, there were two different meetings I had. I physically went and met the people that did the trailer. Like, I went to their production house and met the guys behind the trailer. So there was like real physical in the open world, like having a dinner meeting about this project. So, but in that regard, speaking of audio, we also had a big point in Warcrimes we had to figure out. There is a sequence where Sylvanas and Verisa speak to each other in Thalassian. I'm not gonna play this whole thing because this is Letomi's contribution to this.
Okay.
So I had Letomi break down, she may remember when she did this. There is a huge Thalassian like dictionary to actually put through, oh right, exactly. We were gonna actually have a whole sequence in Warcrimes where the actual part where they speak Thalassian, which was just translated in the book. We were going to have our voice actors learn and speak all the dialogue in translated Thalassian and then just have subtitles on the actual scene. So Letomi put together this huge breakdown. It's like 6.5 minutes. I listened to this whole damn thing, but I'm not listening to the whole thing right now. But she has all this stuff about this section.
This is the Thalassian translation of Sylvanas and Lorthamar Theron's conversation.
Oh, this is Lorthamar's part. Okay.
I will say the line, followed by the Thalassian grammar, followed by each word slowly, twice, followed by each word quickly.
Letomi!
Sylvanas says, "Well played, Alliance." The Thalassian grammar becomes played well, alliance. Ishta Aran Alliance. Ishta Aran Alliance. Ishtaran Alliance. Lorthamar says, they only fronted Varian, knowing we would veto him, so they could get someone even more determined in his place in case any of us had lingering affection in our hearts for Garrosh.
So this is part of the trial when Lorthamar and Sylvanas talk. So there was 2 parts that were in Thalassia, now that my brain is getting connected back to this. So, Letomi voice. Oh, gosh.
And I'll break this one down. The Thalassian grammar. They only fronted Varian. Yenodan dieod foashelu Varian. Yenodan dieod foashelu Varian. Yenodan deod foashelu Varian.
So, like, this exists in the game, and, like, again, the breakdown of this stuff that Blizzard has put together for Thalassian being a real language, but then actually making it spoken, and the fact that Letomi went through and changed to make sure all the grammar would line up with how the translation works. So yeah, there was 2 sequences that were going to be spoken in Thalassian. So I forgot that this goes back to the Lorthamar and Sylvanas stuff at the beginning of the trial. And then there's also the Varisa Sylvanas Thalassian scene in her side story, where Sylvanas basically says, Varisa, just let me kill your 2 sons and you and res you, and you can live with me in Undercity. Then we can be family again. Yeah, we'll be dead family, because I'm a crazy bitch! No, sorry. Yeah, this would be sent to the voice actors in depth. I don't think it was not this one. I think this is, you probably just broke down the Lorthamar Sylvanas one. We hadn't gotten that far yet. Right. We hadn't gotten that far. You're right.
Yes-ish. Lorthamar then says, she has no love for the Horde either. I wonder if Vol'jin will regret not taking Varian when we had the chance. Ainra, Horde, Riom, Dwefu, Arlasesh.
There's I don't know. I have no idea. And I mean, without like, oops, I just closed that tweet. No big deal. Just to like to lift the veil on this one. Hold on. Can you send that back to you? You can. Hi.
Yeah, I don't have that anymore.
Oh, you do. Oh, was that on your old computer?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Hi, Letomi face.
Hi, babe.
Oh my goodness. So, other special guest. I was trying to segue you with your translation stuff, but there you go.
Thanks. I had totally forgotten about all of that.
Oh, I have it all backed up. It's
good.
I mean, we haven't gone through. There's even more to go through in a moment here. Is that Letomi voice live? No, this is pre-recorded.
Yeah. Yes. This is old. This is from hours ago.
Yeah. We prepped this before the stream. She's not actually here. Yep. Yep, not actually here. But I was gonna start bringing up concept art stuff, but I wanted to get your take after I spoke to Nobbel for a bit on what you think this project should and or could become put together. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I always wanted it to be done. As you remember, I kind of dove right in and I started going through the book and pulling out voice lines and things that kind of happened that felt important. And I started to like write it all out.
Right.
I don't know if you remember, but yeah, no, I've been on board for this from the start. I would love to see this become a reality.
So let me see. I had a logo. I had a logo artist. This is all from 2015. Yeah. Wait, this no. Oh, this recording right now. Yes, 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think. Oops. What the? Oh, doesn't want to open in. What is this? Open with photos. This is I have early concept. I'll bring up some concept art stuff here, and we can. Yeah. If it keeps snapping to my screen. Get out of there. But we had early concept art for the Vision of Time, and we had just like a layering view because we had to get the Vision of Time in a 2D view, a flat view, before the concept artist could take this and go into ZBrush and make the actual one with Cara Motion designs. So we had this one. This was the final logo we decided upon, but there were multiple different Warcrime logos. Where's the Warcrimes logo? Oh, here are the sheets. No, stop. Open with photos. So we had this. We had so many. What? Letomi-chan. Yeah, Ken.
Well, so the thing, Mia, is that tends to be related to which of the folks that want to be involved for fees, or which of the folks that want to be involved for nada. Like for me, I wouldn't charge Bay for my help in this because I so want this to happen. So I was never intending to be like, all right, Bay, now that I've done some vocals for Tyrande and I wrote all this stuff out, you owe me X. But so I wouldn't do that. But if we were to get somebody like, oh gosh, who were we talking about earlier? Like Jesse Cox might probably.
Well, I think Jesse
charge
Cox.
Us some money.
Well, I think he's. I don't think he's SAG, but I think he has an agent representation, so he would have to get paid.
Felicia Day, absolutely.
Oh, she's SAG, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, she'd have to. Some of our creators, like when you did that, when you got that beautiful Kairos hype video, you get charged for that.
That
I remember.
The funny part about that one was that was actually a lowballed, but I think I paid about $1,200 for that.
Yeah.
That was actually
for a minute.
Well, yeah, about a minute.
Yep.
That was all entailing. That was like artist to concept to meetings to music to the final render. Yeah.
So it was a really hefty discount because if I remember when we were first talking about that, you were thinking that was going to cost $5,000.
Like $5,000, $4,000 to $5,000. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. I was like $4,000 to $5,000. Just like, where am I going to find that money? So absolutely.
And yeah, we could look into doing a Kickstarter, but that would be up to Bay. You've always kind of been like the head on this. I
don't think the Kickstarter. Whoops! Why does this keep wanting to open a different program? Heck! The Kickstarter stuff. I went over that at the beginning of the stream. I don't know if a Kickstarter and like separating. Wow, this Warcrimes art. You can see galaxies. Her clock on the bottom screen. It's October 25th, 2014. Oh my gosh, that's how old this stuff is.
Oh my gosh.
But I don't know if I'd want to do a Kickstarter though, because I feel like me and my presence and what I do and what I produce, like if that is just able to produce X, I don't want to ask for Y outside of that. That's what I don't know, because I had initial private investing from family, I would just say blanketly, because I prepped this whole thing to like my overall family. So I had startup fee basically as a small budget film, and I was going to take out a business loan for this as well, but that still wouldn't be enough, especially now. I don't think as things get more and more beyond. So but I think, let me bring out, I'm probably bringing some, we're going to leave Fronone's art for last.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, no, I actually don't think a Kickstarter would be a bad idea because obviously people want this to happen. And I get the feeling that a lot of people, even in your chat right now, would just be honored to say that they helped make it happen. Mm-hmm. That would be really cool.
Sure.
Whether you go through something like Kickstarter or you fundraise in a different way, that would be up to you. Kickstarter might be a little strange because you'd have like the different tier system.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you'd want to do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. be a Kickstarter or like a Indiegogo, one of the either
Yeah,
two.
Indiegogo. Yeah.
So let me bring up. I'll bring up. This is. I'm gonna bring up Firecat stuff. So Firecat was working on. In Warcrimes, there is a sequence of time where the vision of time opens sort of like to the upside down. In Warcraft terms, it opens up to a. I only use upside down as a terminology from Stranger Things. People don't understand what that is. There is a period of time where basically doppelganger or reverse versions of story characters come into play. So there is a reverse version of Vol'jin that comes in where he was just always the shadow hunter in his world. And he was just this crazy, like death-inspired, Loa-infused, like voodoo guy. So this was an early concept of Vol'jin, and there's a breakdown concept here of more detail. So he's got Loa-infused tattoos that would light up when he starts battling, and he has like a hexy voodoo skull and a sacrificial dagger. And this is not, again, this style of Vol'jin is nothing like we know in game at all.
Right.
Totally different, upside down Vol'jin. So, but I mean, this is a huge piece of art. Like, it has lots of detail we had, because we have to obviously have really, and this is like the frontal pose. It's not going to be a T pose that would go into, once we had proved the different steps, we would have them do, you know, we do full quarter, 45, side, back, and then detail pieces, because obviously you have to take the 2D art and turn it into 3D art if we were doing a 3D piece. So this is the upside down or doppelganger world Vol'jin. There was also one of my favorites. This is not the Tyrande concept art you're all waiting for. We'll get to that in a little bit. So there is a evil Tyrande version that basically fell to the Illidari. She became a...
Yeah.
She is like a demon hunter, but I don't remember what her whole backstory is. Some of this stuff is definitely fuzzy. But yeah, all of you all, I think you mean Gara. Yeah, that's fine. So this is like, we were looking at obviously her outfit first, right? And trying to figure out what her outfit would be. And we decided upon a mixture of number 3 and the leggings from one of the other ones as well. So this is just actually like flat scripting stuff to find out what her outfit would be. So here is an early line mock of a front and back pose. So she is an Illidari huntress, basically. We have the more refined line art. Basically, we were designing this idea that we initially had this like more lewd concept of that she, like her. So here's a colored in version. Her tattoos were like her top, her halter top, her bra, basically. But
Yeah.
that, I mean, it still looks completely awesome. Oh yeah, well, yeah, no, hoof fetish is
booty.
well, yeah, I guess so. These are shoes that she's wearing that make it look like she has like cloven feet. Again, that demon form. But we decided that was a little bit too much, so we went back and refined. This is the line art sketch of this. So we thought that was a little bit too much if we were going with like the actual like topless version. So then we put an actual just like just a regular top on her, just enough. Well, it can go with either version basically. It's the only difference between these two sketches. This one's a little more rendered, but basically her glaive is her bow. If you notice that little detail as we go through this, that she basically has a glaive as her bow.
And that's because, I mean, Tyrande is iconic with her bow, so.
Right. Well, in this flip side, upside down world, she's with Illidan in this like, this is the Tyrande that gets with Illidan versus our Tyrande is with Malfurion. So Priestess of the Moon versus Illidari.
Nipple tassels.
Huh? She needs nipple tassels. I don't know about that. So
What do you mean confirmed? We already have ranged demon hunters. That's what I've been playing the last 8 months.
Well, just I-beam spam, right?
Yeah, I beam and throw glaive.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the Illidari version of Tyrande. Firecat also put together, again, with these characters any of these characters that come into play in Warcrimes can't just be wearing the same whatever they're wearing in World of Warcraft. Because they're just not, it doesn't make any sense, but because those models don't work. So in our slow rebuilding of the characters that were going to be seen in Warcrimes, we obviously had to do a new Varian. And Varian had a court attire that was described in the novel that was not what he wears in game whatsoever. So he has a line art sketch of different greaves and his overall, like, this, because again, we're up in the mountains in Pandaria land, so it's like colder. So we were trying to make all of the characters look like they were like dressing for the weather. So he has, these are pauldrons that we had thought of earlier, and then maybe like a cape piece, his back piece, maybe different boots. But this was the line art sketch that we basically came down to with, and this was the more refined. Let me go to it. Yeah, here he is. So this was what Varian was going to wear to the trial. So a lot more sleekly armored, but also like the huge overcoat, like Jon Snow, like Game of Thrones style. That that was for the cold, basically.
Yeah, it was supposed to be very much more, what's the word I'm thinking of? This is like business professional as opposed to going out and fighting.
Right. I mean, like, even his boots are like, you know, heavily like woolen, like, you know, padded because it could be warmer. His gloves, and then again, of course, his overcoat, cloak as well here, but still keeping the lion belt motif and on his boots as well. But yeah, definitely more of like a business professional garb for the court attire here that Varian will be wearing. Yeah. So, but still keeping like the Alliance blues and golds. Mm-hmm. So he would even have, we saw his inline braid back here. This could be an Alliance symbol that was in his braid. You can see the side of it right here from this side. So, but yeah, that was going to be Varian's court attire. That was what Firecat was putting together. Then going over here to, let me see, going back on the upside down characters, another big, this is a lot of art. Let me go, which one to open first? So in the flip side, what?
I was going to say, that's a good question. Chewbacca is asking if there's lore regarding the justice system within the Alliance Stormwind. I don't remember any of that, but with Warcrimes, it's all based up in Pandaria anyway.
Yeah, so this Warcrimes is Pandaren law, not Alliance or Horde law. Mm-hmm. Which is why the whole trial sequence in Warcrimes feels kind of out of place, because it's new to the lore of the everything.
Yeah.
So this is one of the upside down characters. This is going to be Blackmore Thrall. In what comes through the portal is a thrall that never becomes a shaman. It's a thrall that stays a gladiatorial slave under Blackmore and just becomes like basically a toy, a champion of the, you know, the humans back in the olden days, basically in this regard. So we went with the orc model first. We tried to figure out like what armor he'd be wearing that was orcish, but also obviously made by humans. So we have, I gotta go the other way now in these sketches. Yeah, let me open this one up. These are made by Stephen Crow. So here's a front and back of the initial design of, he's basically wearing like footman armor, but the helmet wouldn't fit. So he basically broke open like the face guard to fit an orc jawline. That is where that design comes from there. This is a different style of this is filling this in the back up and changing the helmet style. If it was more like a Roman-esque, or I guess the stupid ponytail on the back of the helmet thing. Either one of those were just examples. This was an early design side-by-side concept. Back with like a flat orc instead of the actual like thrall face underneath of it.
God, it's so cool though.
And then this was the more finished, polished up version of what he'd be wearing. But he's basically just wearing like human footman gear. We also had to make his axe. So this is a big one. So his axe was created. This is basically Blackmore's insignia, and he's like Blackmore's champion, right? He's his prized gladiator. So this was the axe we had drummed up. That not only is it this huge double-sided, you know, Blackmore, I guess it's like a raven or a hawk. I don't remember what Blackmore. What is he actually? What's his? Yeah, Adalius?
A crow
Blackmore?
or something.
Is it a crow?
I don't remember.
I'm just looking it up real quick because
It's
he
either
has.
a raven or a crow.
Yeah. Blackmore and Thrall. One of the two. Bird of prey, whatever it is, what we were going with. He, a pigeon, that works too.
Yeah, it's a pigeon.
A pigeon, that works too.
It's a, you know, sky rat.
He, let me go over to this folder. The one thing that I wanted to make this look even, like, more terrifying is that, so this part is the straight edge serrated nature, right? It all comes to a point like any axe would to cut. But the wing filaments, the inlays of the feathers were all like raised outward pieces so that if Thrall landed a blow, it wouldn't just be a straight cut. It would tear the flesh around the cut. So the axe just looked terrifying. It was this huge just vision of rending and tearing flesh at the same time. These raised winglets in the axe. And then here's the full composition with the axe in hand as well. So this was the Blackmore Thrall concept we had. But very, very, very different style, obviously, from Stephen Crow. But, I mean, Crow's work is super detailed. Yeah. Think about how much that would hurt. Yeah. Why is he slouched? Because this was going off of the old orc model and the fact that he is a slave. He never stood upright because he's not a shaman. He's not the Thrall we knew or know today. He was
Never
going to
got
be
to stand up for himself.
Also true. He's just imprisoned his whole life, and all he knows is murdering and killing things. So he's a slave. Yeah. Because our Thrall is at the trial, and obviously we see him as his upright, like his cataclysm garb or whatever he has on before the mop stuff, like the whole beaded necklace thing and whatever. But yeah, this version had to be very different. Very, very different in juxtaposition.
Yeah.
We also had, it has the most artwork done to it because it was such a huge undertaking to figure this out. So we have a upside down version of Varian. Now, this version of Varian was the Logosh Varian. This is the one that what was the backstory that he never tamed the wolf? Old god, wild god nonsense within him. He's just like this like wildlands berserker kind of like Aragorn figure.
I wouldn't even say like Aragorn. He was just kind of crazy angry.
Right. So we try to figure out a way to model this sort of, and he has two different types of pauldrons, and he has, depending on the sides of he has two different weapons as well. So needs a bard version of Varian. I don't know about that. Where else is the other piece of concept rendering here? This one right here. So different armor models, like, do we want 2 shoulder pads? One obviously is towards the enemy, one's away, depending on if he's dual wielding. We want to keep the spikes and thorns and whatever on him, and all this kind of stuff like that. He has 2 different weapons, so he has this huge just broadsword that it's just a giant hunk of metal that he basically welded and put together himself. Kind of looks like Riven's sword from League in some way. So he has this huge, gigantic slab of sword, basically. He also has, let me go over this one.
It's chunky.
Yeah, Weapons of Logosh. Very chunky, for sure. He has dual-wielding swords. And again, he doesn't have Charlemagne in this version of himself, right? This is like the fallen king. He's more Logosh. He's not Varian in this depiction. He still has the belt. This belt piece was going to be a key point, that it was the old insignia of Stormwind, but it was all broken and destroyed over time. Yep. And again, doesn't have magical swords. He just made these chunky, crazy, these are like dragon teeth in this one. This is dual wield fury swords. And these were his just huge, gigantic arms weapon. So then we finally decided upon, this was another earlier piece. So we have him with the very long hair, the unkempt pieces, like basically wearing rags tattered together, the fur undertones, one side with like basically just dragon teeth just like pushed into his armor, the other side being cleaner, very rugged, very almost Wolverine-esque. There's also another, let me go to this build over here. Where is it? Yeah, this build side by side from the initial concept piece to the actual more finalized version for the concept.
Well, that's the thing, Chewbacca. If you don't ever get to sit on a throne anymore, you lose your ass. Everybody knows this.
Oh, he doesn't have a butt? Oh, whatever.
No booty.
Another side-by-side concept. Again, this art is actually huge. Like, the piece of concept art is very, very big.
Get all that detail.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had to put them all together. So we had a template that our artists were putting together all their assets for that Farnham made. So this was his swords and his everything else. He has his color palette here of the key colors that are created in the actual art piece. Again, his swords, his belt buckle. These were all really important pieces to make sure it were translated into 3D. So that was Logosh Varian. In that regard, too, we had also had a 3D artist, Christopher Ayers, that was already working on 3D pieces back in the day. He had rough modeled the potential different swords in just like low tris polygon models, the belt and the dual wield dragon tooth swords. So we had these that were already being constructed. These just like little renders from, I think Maya or 3ds Max. I don't know what he was using this on to get these just early designs to get starting to get assets created. So that exists. If Hugh Jackman grew a mullet, yeah.
Did we actually get any work done on Bane? I know we'd been really worried about the whole red cloth scene. Did we ever get anything done with that?
Well, so that would bring me over now to Farnona's concept art. So Farnona did concept art for Anduin, the boy king Prince Anduin back in the day. All of the August Celestials, Bane, Bloodhoof, our version of Jaina in this, Kindi, Shokia, Taranzu, the Tyrande concept art, which we'll definitely get to soon enough, the update to Varisa, and the update to the War Chief Vol'jin. So you wanted to bring up Bane first. So Bane
She's been asking.
Well, right. There's a lot of stuff in this Bane folder here.
I know.
Let me see.
So much.
I don't want to go with like the final bit first. So again, these characters because the trial took place over multiple days, and there were costume changes between these characters as the story progressed in some way. Bane was the representation from the Horde side, so we wanted to make sure we changed his appearance and his model enough. So we had 4 different. This is like his like undergarment from Tauren, stuff like that. We also had more of like this Tauren like regal robe design potential we had with his stupid headdress thing on still. We were trying to figure out what we were going to do with that. So this is like a Tauren robe garb. We don't know. It doesn't exist in Tauren culture. We were trying to figure out like what if the Pandaren had made him something? So we had this as an option. Again, different color palette swap depending on if it was, obviously he's Horde side, so it'd be red. But we were just trying to think of like what it looks like on his character. And then like just what would he wear underneath it? We didn't remove the upper parts to see where the layering would be, depending on what the model would be or where it calls for. So really early look at trying to redo his battle armor as well. We had, oh, there's still more in here. There's still this decision. Maybe what, like in Tauren garb, do they wear like, maybe they wear like a like poncho-ish kind of overcloaks to I don't know. Like we didn't know. There's not a lot of stuff.
I loved the poncho one though.
Yeah, the poncho is neat. So like with the headdress going on, we took the poncho to like a next step. What if he's a lot more like Indian in nature, where he just has like the loincloth cloak, he's got like the crazy bindings on, and he has like a big headdress or not. Like look at different headdress styles. So we also had different trinkets and pieces. We also added more armor to him. Maybe it was like more simple armor, and he has the, of course, his father's ribbon around his horn there. So little things to try to like bookend more to his character, because Bane doesn't really have a whole lot of charactering in the game. These were multiple stages of trying to put together what his armor would be. We had different, we had A and then to B with different pieces and pots. We had C. They're all very small variations of like what color palettes we're going to use for the character overall. This is just the headdress potentials. So if he had earrings, if he had the band wrapped around, if he had like the bandana or poncho thing going on here, if he had more of like a crown on top of his horn helm thing or whatever. So we were trying to figure out like what he would be wearing. So again, going back to the concept art sheet here. But we all sort of came down to this. So this was the final Bane. He has to have something on like on the final day of the trial, which leads into sort of the war effort. Well, the war that happens there, the battle, all the Twilight Dragon madness, all this stuff, the pirates and everything like that. There's a huge weird battle at the end of Warcrimes you don't know. It's hard to describe. So
yeah, it's a lot.
So he was going to be wearing all of this underneath. We were saying that like it should be like a together piece, right? So when he was being sort of the voice of the Horde in the trial, that he would be, or the defendant in this case, right? He would just have this huge like Tauren hand-stitched poncho over his armor, and he'd have this, you know, we were kind of back and forth on the headdress bit, depending on what we wanted to go with, because we were going to go with like, you know, because Tauren have a lot of like Native American culture obviously built into them.
Yeah.
This red ribbon point is really important to remember. This is part of the last part that Bane took from his father. It's the part of the flag that tore off when he was at his pyre, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And he grabs it out of the air as it wafts past him, and he ties it to his horn. Never been translated in game. It doesn't exist in game at all. There's no connection point, whatever. But we wanted to make sure that that was a connected point, that his father was with him during this, because this was when Bane was still like younger in Tauren years. This is definitely years and years ago. This is a big proving point for Bane's character. So we wanted to sort of, you know, translate that a little better. And then when the war breaks out, he would just take off the headdress and pull off the poncho, and then he'd be ready to go. So that was all the Bane stuff we had worked out that Fernona put together.
So good.
We also had, let's go over to Tyrande, which was going to be Jesse Cox. Voicing this character. So Tyrande had a really pretty easy understanding. We had to just design he's the judge in this case. And we wanted to tie in either a August Celestial Pandaren theme, which is this one, which ties together all the different colors and the motifs of the four August Celestials. So Chi-Ji, Zhuan, Nizao, and Yulon are all present here. The green dragon scales, the red crane wings, the Nizao pendant, and of course, I mean the Zhuan pendant and the Nizao black and gold on the outside. The horns also coming up here from the bottom as well. That was.
And then our other design was the white curly wig and the full black and the hammer.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. There was no curly wig. It was the Shadow Pan design. Terrible. Shadow Pan design we had brought up.
Here to help.
Absolutely. So this was the Shadow Pan design, which would be a little more in his wheelhouse, because that's what Tyrande is part of. But I'm pretty sure I felt very partial to the August Celestial version, felt much more regal in this regard. The big hooped sleeves versus the like ninja-y style regal robe. But again, we could have him dressed different ways. He could be dressed as Shadow Pan for the verdict day. Because underneath this, if you can notice, underneath this robe, this red and silver, the belt, and the black underneath this purple vest he has on, he's basically wearing his Shadow Pan garb. So during the Battle of the Temple of the White Tiger, he would just take off the robes and he would be sort of, you know, in his monk garb. Whereas this one is obviously very different for the opening ceremony. The opening ceremony in Warcrimes is this huge procession of the August Celestials, like, coming in and showing and being their whole entrance and turning into their visage form, all this other regal garbage, because they're very, very conceited. It's like kind of an underlying tone of the August Celestials. They just don't care about us. They're just very, sure, we'll go, mortals, haha. But they're kind of above us. So, and that was the final piece together here of his two costumes we're going to make. Refined robe in this final piece here with the Zhuan Nizao blue and gray, and then the Qijin and the Yulon, and then the overall arcing piece here. And his color palette. Again, these are all by Farnham. We also had, so other minor characters, we had Shokia, who isn't minor. It's weird that she's really never seen in the game very much outside of a little bit in the Siege of Orgrimmar, I guess, and then this book. But
I feel like there was like a quest or two that we did with Shokia like a long time ago, like in the beginning of MOP.
Yeah.
There's like a rescue Shokia quest, if I remember correctly.
Shokia is basically a Korkron like assassin. She's a ranger, essentially, or whatever she is. What's her titling here real quick? I actually want to read what her titling is. Veteran of the team that entered Pandaria on the gunship, blah, blah, blah. She is... Actually, is she not a member of a certain... Yeah, there's her crappy model in game. It's terrible. Because she works with Warlord Zayla. There were quests with Shokia and Mop, right? I don't think she has an official affiliation or whatever. She's just sort of... She wears classic Korkron armor, and she's indicating she's a member of the group, which is why we kept like this golden coloring for her new modeling work. But because the in-game model looks like it's just the stupid
regular orc.
You know, it's garbage. But this was Shokia's overall, because obviously the plot point, Shokia had to be a bit of a more developed character in her short number of scenes, because she kills Jaina Proudmoore. If you haven't read Warcrimes, spoilers, I guess, a book that's like 4 years old. Jaina dies in Warcrimes, if you didn't know. She, like, straight up dead. I'm not going to go through all the details of how it happens, but Shokia does the thing. So we wanted to make sure Shokia's character was a bit more defined. She only has, like, very small moments. She'll be seen a lot in Warcrimes, but this is what her model was going to be. So, spoilers. Yeah.
Spoilers if you didn't read this book 4 years ago.
So we also had, we'll go over to Vol'jin. This was a big one for me because I didn't really feel that the Vol'jin model in game to show him as a war chief felt very war chiefy. He didn't have his connected points from the rest of the lore. He didn't feel like he was built up enough to be a war chief. So we have, this is the original concept art. So we kept his awesome troll shoulder pad, and he has the horde bracer, and very troll oriented. They don't wear a lot of clothing. They usually have like bracers and like ankle wraps, and then like the midsection, then like a shoulder pad, and then like a huge big necklace and stuff. So the one thing I wanted to make sure we had was on his right wrist. This is totally from the Tyrande Vol'jin novel. What's it even called? What's the novel? Damn it. What's that book called? Oops. there it is. It's the Shadows of the Horde novel. Vol'jin is actually trained by Tyrande. They have like a big back and forth in the whole book. And this is why like hero characters in World of Warcraft are so ridiculous. Because they have like multi-classes. They're just all over the place. But this was supposed to, that piece, I'm trying to get the other folder up with the art. That is his monk bracer given to him by Tyrande after he completed his training. So he has the Horde one in very troll garb fashion here. This was his full-on T-pose piece where he has his voodoo charm necklace, his Horde insignia belt bracer, his troll colors, and then of course his bracer given to him by Tyrande to tie it all together. It looks very out of place, but that's the whole point. Like it's meant to be very different. And of course, she actually put all this background information in here for some of these characters. So, but this is the war chief of the Horde version of Vol'jin. We had Varisa needed to get an update. So this one was mostly because Varisa's model right now is just kind of like a flat nothingness in World of Warcraft. So we had a color palette model earlier on, and then we had some concept work to remake her armoring to be a lot more of what, because she's still a high elf, would actually be wearing, and try to make her a little more distinct because she is just kind of not in game right now.
Yeah, in game, she's just another blood elf.
Right. Just a blood elf, even though she's not a blood elf, but yeah.
Right. But it's the model.
Right, it's just the model.
Not even like unique hair or anything.
Right. We would obviously have a little more to draw from now because of the Three Sisters comic. So to compare that to what Varisa is in this regard. This poison vial is part of the story. That was just a little hook we had there for her. But we had, here's the detailed one, where we had like the different bindings and clasps of her to give her this like the regal flowing like high elven swooshes all inlaid into all of her armor. Very almost Sunwell-like, but she's the blue garbed sister. Her armor is blue in games. We want to keep the blue there, but reintegrated her cloak piece and keeping her undergarb very high elven, very swooshy, very, gemmed.
Dalaran.
Yeah. So that was Varisa's update, because we knew that she needed an update. This is a different color swap we had for her cloak. We wanted to unify it all together to be the blue. So that was Varisa's update. We also had, let's do King Anduin. Well, boy King Anduin at the time. This doesn't have as much work because this came together really fast. So Anduin at the time was still very much sort of a priest boy, sort of in school kind of a deal. This is the way he was going to wear. There was similarities between his father. They're both wearing the lion insignia on their belt and their boots, but obviously he's wearing like, cloth and leather kind of a deal, where his father actually has like plate mail on. We wanted to,
baby.
I know. And we wanted to keep like the priesty nature with his like raised cloak shoulders going on here, which is very subtle in this regard. But he has like his little flowing priesty mantle stuff, his like overcloak. He's got his tome book there and whatnot. Obviously very different hairstyle because this is a much younger Anduin than we see now. No longer the child prince from years past, Anduin is fast becoming his own man. So
pre-king, post-broken bones.
Yes. that works. So that was going to be Anduin's update. We wanted to pull that forward. Let's do Jaina and Kindi. So Jaina has 3 different garbs that she was going to be wearing in the trial. Jaina had a very sort of Dalaran themed, very powerful, flowing purple and golden robe, which was going to be sort of her main costume, because she wanted to stand out, because she was kind of at her wit's end during all of this. There was definitely a period of time where Jaina was.
She's wanting attention.
Yeah, absolutely true. So
But she wants to remind people that she wants vengeance for what happened. So she needs eyes on her.
Yeah. Man, that purple. So this, yeah. And then we had her sort of simple traveler's garb here with her overcloak, which she'd be sort of arriving in traveling to. But we didn't have a lot of cool Tyran stuff to pull from when we were making this. Obviously still with the undergarment being that purple and gold, like from the Dalaran style, not in her dress. But it's actually kind of funny looking back on this now. We made this so long ago. The strappings, like the bodice she's wearing and like her wrist wraps and like the underflowing just sort of simple gown she has on. Mm-hmm. And even like the cloak she has, we didn't, because if you look at look at her in her Warbringer short to the cloak she's wearing in that it's interesting to see what
not dissimilar.
Yeah, but had open shoulders here, but obviously covered up by this cloak, and this has a huge hood underneath that would be coming up over top here. Because when they're traveling, there's this big point that we don't, as players, understand in the game, that you can always just like fly really quickly wherever you want to go. Not a big deal. But we wanted to almost make it practical because they're traveling up to the mountains and it's like snowing and cold and up in the mountains that the Kunlai Summit where the Temple of White Tiger is in Mopland. So the one things to look practical, and she's one of the ones that was traveling by cart, like in the opening sequences, she's in a cart traveling there with everyone else. So that was the Jaina update. But I don't want to keep Letomi here for too much longer, but I know she wanted to, and she can definitely talk more to this next little update that doesn't exist in game. So we had to make Kindy exist.
Oh.
And she has like one piece of fan art that exists out there, but I don't know. I feel really, really like what we pulled off with what Fernona and I and Letomi put together for Kindy. So, what did Kin link? Very similar. Oh yeah, Kin gave us a picture of the cloak that Jaina's wearing. Yeah, and again, this is years apart, totally different. That's kind of funny. So here's Kindy anyway. Her little face, Kindy Sparkshine. This is Jaina's only apprentice that dies at the bombing of Theramore.
Oh man, that moment.
She's so adorable.
So cute.
Yeah, that's Kindy's face. I could go into details that we're going to go through with like how we were going to do that sequence, because the Warcrimes main story had 4 parts. The Warcrimes story as the main key part. The intro, the starting of the Warcrimes story, was going to open with the Hellscream short story, as the intro hook to the entire series was going to be the murder of Kairos Dormu and Garrosh getting through the portal. And then we're going to get basically like, days before or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. To show how that happens. And that's basically the prelude story is the Hellscream short story. Warcrimes is the main bulk of it. And then we had 2 B stories, which were Jaina and Kindy and Sylvanas and Verisa. To a lesser extent, there's like the side bit with Andu and Rathiam. That's only in 1 episode, I guess. But
yeah.
There were going to be 3 segments with Jaina and Kindy that were going to be parts of the story pulled from Tides of War. And we were going to embellish and take our own depiction of, we have thoughts of them. They were making cookies together at one point in the book. So we were going to have like, what would be if 2 mages were making cookies together? Because we wanted to drill home the fact that we wanted 2 other small scenes of Jaina with her apprentice just being mages together in Theramore and learning and practicing, and little montage moments and just being a part of each other's lives to make Kindy's death all that more impactful, because you didn't care about them more. I'm not going to talk about or spoil or give away any details on the scene we had built for the end, but it was very, very Game of Thrones, almost Red Wedding ending-esque. That was very...
It's so heartbreaking.
Yep, but because there's two whammies in Warcrimes. There's Kindy's death and building that up with the Tides of War backstory interwoven. So when it happens and the impact that has on Jaina, almost like as flashback moments that are built into the main Warcrimes story. When Jaina dies in Warcrimes, it has the two big parts of her story. You learn about this character, and then she has basically her second life and how that comes about. So, but we had made a ton of stuff with Kindy. I don't know if you wanted to... I'm going to go over the August Celestials and then do Tyrande next, but I don't know if you wanted to have any little closing points about this before I keep going, and I'll let you go.
What about Kindy or about the whole thing?
Both.
I mean, as much as I enjoy punting gnomes, the Kindy moment that's planned, like if we make this for any one reason, we have to do it so that we can show what we had planned for Kindy and the loss of Kindy, because that moment is just going to be so powerful.
Yeah.
And I think it would really do honor to both the book, the story, the way the characters interact, and definitely helping explain a lot of Jaina's rage.
Yeah.
Going
sure.
into everything we've had. So we should do it at least for that. And with the whole project, I mean, you know me, I'm down, I'm ready to go. Just say when and I'll start going. I'll go find wherever I put that book in the movie.
Find wherever I put that book.
Yeah, well, I had to pack up a bunch of books because I moved. So.
Well, I know. I'm just giving you guff. But
yeah.
There's still more to go through. Thank you for special guesting and blabbing with me for a little bit about this.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely my pleasure. Let me know what everybody thinks of Tyrande.
Well, you're going to... I mean, if you're still in chat for a little bit, you'll see.
I very well might be.
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you later. Bye.
So... that all aside, let me go over to the... because there's still more. I know I'm about like 2 hours now, but I have more to show and more to talk about because this project has a lot of moving parts. So we have to rework the August Celestials. So this was a huge one, and it is pronounced August, not August Celestials. It's August Celestials. Because it's actually that word, not August the month, but August.
August.
Via Google Translate right there, is respected and impressive. Use in a sentence, she was in August company, not the month called August. So we started out with this huge group shot because we know that obviously Nizao is a Tauren, is the giant bull. We know that Yulon is the giant Jade Serpent, is seen as a child Pandaren female. We know that Chi-Ji is the Red Crane, who is seen as a blood elf or a high elf in this regard. Excuse me. We also know that Zhwen is seen as the giant blue and white crazy tiger. His is weird because he's actually seen as a blue male human. They make their own visages, just like the dragons do. So we wanted to think, like, well, what is their story? And based on just the little descriptions we have of them, what can we come up with to actually give them their visage forms in the story to show off these characters? So we started with, like, this really rough, it never got finished, this rough, like, what are their personalities? So Nizao is sort of like the older brother to all of them. He is sort of like the caretaker, the storyteller. Yulon is like the middle. She's like the little sister in this regard. Actually the scene of, and this in let's see. The inspiration I had for this story was actually from Bleach. Believe it or not. If you are familiar with Bleach at all, there are characters in Bleach called Kenpachi and Yachiru. These are Shinigami. And a lot of the time, if I can find a picture here, there we go. They were seen where this little character was always sort of riding Kenpachi's back. And the visuals I got from this were, that's sort of how I see their visage form sort of characters could be. So that is how Yulon is sort of holding onto and riding on Nizao's back. Because Nizao is just a male Tauren. But in a male Tauren visage form that he has, he's massive in comparison. I mean, Tauren are big. He would be almost double the size of a regular male Tauren. Just huge. So this little female panda, like child, like adolescent, I guess, the way that Yulon lets herself be seen. Even though Yulon as a dragon is very old, she's seen very youthful in this visage form, would sort of be riding on Nizao's back. So we have Zhuen, who is sort of like a Captain America figure. He's obviously a little younger in like timeline wise than Nizao in this little portrait picture we had here. But he's very much the soldier. He is the prideful one. He is the first into combat. He is sort of the leader mentality here. And juxtaposed to him, behind in this whole sequence here, is Chi-Ji, sort of as the younger, artistic, sort of misunderstood brother that's very big into his art and how he sees the world and whatever, right? So we wanted to make sure we have like this little backstory about each of them and how we could describe them going forward. So we'll go over to Nizao. So we had like a really rough just overcoat of what his armor would be like over a Tauren model, and then some more finished-ish work on what Nizao would be. This very, because he's not Tauren, he'd be more of the Tonka Trunk, you know, the Tauren that are in the Panda Land, that strain. 4 horns, the same as he has when he's in his giant bull form as an August Celestial. And then sort of his armor palette, all these armor palettes are themed after the legendary cloaks from Mists of Pandaria. He would have his hooves and his hands would have that glowing white to gold that he has in game from his model. Same thing with his mane as well. So we go back over to Chi-Ji now. Chi-Ji took a ton of alterations to figure out how Chi-Ji would be portrayed, how simple his garb may or may not be. Very sort of Japanese kimono style, with the swooping sleeves and the very flat, simple, with the waist wrap and everything too. We wanted to see if maybe his connection to his cloak would be that his wings were actually on his back all the time, but they were like folded down like a cloak. They would wrap around his neck a little bit and then fold down beyond his back. We also didn't know, maybe he also had the shoulder pads were a bit more to add even more regalness to his character. And maybe even we had the one animated frame here where the red crane sort of misted out or somewhat animated from the big feathers on his shoulders. But I don't know. The shoulder pads are probably too much for me. I like this myself, that it just has like the feathers on his back that wrap around his... So kind of like Rakan from League of Legends. Well, Rakan and the other one, I can't remember the other one's name, they only have half a cloak. But yeah, kind of like that. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, kind of like half a cloak, I guess. But I mean, this is the bottom keyframe here is what shows off what his cloak would be like on his back, right? Oh, Zaya. Okay. Zaya and Rakan. There you go. I haven't played League in a very long time. So that would be, and it could like flare up and be like wings, right? That's how it would actually be. So we have the final keyed version of Chi-Ji the Red Crane here. Simple garb or full garb as well. Again, all the color palettes are very similar to their mop cloaks. Oh, we can go all the way back over here to Nizao. We have Nizao's final piece here, or his more finalized concept art. The braiding that is part of his armoring. Again, color swaps, the giant glowing blue eyes. So now we came to Zhuen, and Zhuen kind of came together really quickly. We knew we wanted to do with Zhuen. So he has that golden silvery gray motifs. He has actually like tigered striped body, but he is like a human. But he's a blue human with blue and striped, like he is actually still a tiger from the game. This is what Zhuen was going to be. We had this fanged, like propped up collar, a little bit of light armoring, very I think we used like, wasn't Chinese armoring that has like this like braided texture patterns. I think we had something involved in there. Yeah, he has like yeah, he had like Shogun kind of armoring going on with like the layering patterns between. Yeah. We had a whole bunch of like, I wish I had all of our reference folders still, but I don't have all that stuff saved. I'm just kind of remembering from the brain box here. But this is what we were working on for Zhuen and trying to build what his character would be. We have the full-on model. Look, we need to know what he looked like underneath. Like, what is his tiger striped nature in human form like, right? Like, how would that work? He had like, you know, clawed feet, clawed hands. So he'd obviously be barefoot, but his armor sort of straps around his feet in a way. So top knot. Cat eyes was a big point we wanted to make sure was translated through. Was that he still had cat eyes in that regard. He didn't look so different. He just kind of looked like an animorph version of what he became. And then my favorite, we put so much work into Yulon. So this little girl, old woman kind of a deal. Yulon, and this would be a really tough thing because her model doesn't exist in game. The female Pandaren child model is actually disgusting and hideous. So we would probably have to figure out a way, if we did the 3D version of this, to bring in Lily's model from Heroes of the Storm and then fully change the head to work in this regard. So two different outfits. I am quite partial to the one on the right, only because it has a little jade serpent sort of armlet that would be wrapping around her arm in this regard. And again, little sandals and like the really simple dress style. How dare you? Lily Stormstone is adorable. The Lily's model is awful. It's the stuff of nightmares. Doesn't Yulon actually exist? Yulon does. So if you actually go into game, Yulon in game, if you go to her, she does have a female Pandaren child model. Let me see. Yulon Pandaren model. She is in game, I think, in like one area. I had to like Google search foo this and try to find it. But it's just the default Pandaren child. It's not anything with any customization. So again, it has to be created and it has to exist in a way that would work for us in this, right? So this is our modeling options for Yulon. And the connection points, of course, obviously if we didn't go with this dress style, because the two-part dress is also really cute too. Her ribbons in her hair would always be flowing like a jade serpent, because she is a jade serpent, right? They always be flowing in the air just a little bit slowly in that regard. So this was the concept we had for Yulon, the jade serpent, putting her together in her two different garbs that she had. Both very Asian inspired, depending on two different styles. But the ribbon idea and the little jade serpent sort of armlet wrapping around her left arm would be incredibly adorable, but obviously a much more difficult problem in 3D. So that was our design possibilities for Yulon, which that gives us all the August Celestials and all of our backstory for them. Oh boy, this feels weird. I don't know why it feels weird, but so as Bane was the defender for Garrosh Hellscream, the representation from the Horde in the trial for Garrosh, Tyrande Whisperwind was the prosecutor right? The representation for the Alliance. So she actually is quite a vain character in a way in Warcrimes. She has multiple costume changes, and we had to figure out a way to translate just the text descriptions that would also still fit the character in building what her armor was about and what her garb would be about, or what her clothing would say about her character. So there is a very, very real challenge we had to figure out in this one. Let me see. Where to start? Where to start? Because there is so much art in this folder. Let me go over. Let me go over the T-pose concepts. So we were going to design 3 different dresses, 3 different pieces of concept art for Tyrande. So we wanted to have sort of this like battle maiden style, where it looked like sort of old school Warcraft 3, but dressed up. We wanted to have an actual dress. There is a scene where Tyrande and Malfurion are talking, so we wanted to have a sequence that was, what would she wear with her husband, her mate, just at home, right? So we wanted to have like sort of a nightgown style. But then, is that really a nightgown, or is that just what night elves wear? And then we wanted to have her actual day 1 dress that she wears to the trial, which is just over the actual top and very Pandaren themed, to pay respect to the Pandaren, but also to show off, which is the contrast to Bane's gear being for kind of plain and very humble, because Tyrande's is not. Tyrande had a lot of, look at me, look at who I am. So the first one that was easy to sort of figure out and create was this one. This is just a flat, non-textured version. This was going to be her trial verdict day. So this is very much inspired by how she looks in Warcraft 3. But barded, sort of like laced boots, and the Night Elven sort of, I don't know what this is called, the interlacing. I want to call it something that it's not, but it's the like inline filigree, like metal work, very elven, very delicate kind of stuff. The shoulder pads, the sort of braided, sort of tangle wrapped hair, and very much that warrior priestess from back in the day. Looks like Yennefer from The Witcher. This would be what she's wearing on the final day of the trial, which all sort of plays in narratively. We had to have them look like they're going to be wearing something that's ready for battle, because there's a battle that happens at the end of the book. But this was the end of the trial version because she was ready to fight if needed, if the Horde weren't going to play nice, basically. So they feathered bits underneath. This actually looks, what's funny about this, bring up the Night Elf heritage armor in the game right now, which isn't technically heritage armor, but it will be heritage armor. This again, we made, I mean, this is, you know, what the actual, oh god, the low res on this is terrible. The heritage armor in World of Warcraft is what the Night Elf is wearing at the beginning of the WoW cinematic, right? Like this is where we drew some inspiration from this. But obviously this is like overly scantily clad. There's not even a back, right? We weren't gonna do that. We wanted to have her be powerful, and like there's obviously some bits here, like the midriff kind of, right? And like the bodice top, like all pulled together and whatever. But I mean, it's not, it was sexy, but it wasn't, you know, hey, I'm basically wearing nothing and I'm wearing fantasy naked elf clothing. So this was the warrior Tyrande bit. We also had to figure out her nightgown. So I'll go her nightgown next because the other like 9 images are all for her key art. Yeah, she switches from blue to green all the time, or purple or whatever. Yeah. Her hair color would obviously be locked down all the way. I'm not going to worry about her hair color right now. That's not a big deal. But so her nightgown came together pretty easily. So this would be for the scene that she does when she is basically like back home, you know, in Darnassus with Malfurion. They wanted it to feel like, obviously she's still priestess of the moon, so she has like the you know, the sort of the standard all hair braided to one side kind of a deal going on here, which a lot of the priestesses of the moon have. The necklace and like shoulder lacing draping down over her shoulders was really neat. The long pendant jeweled sort of elven, and then just a really simple sort of throne gown that she would wear at home, like leisure or whatever. So Malfurion, he's a lucky man. Rip Darnassus, nobody liked you either way. Excuse me. So this was the concept we put together for her, just her simple at home. I mean, it's revealing in an elven fashion, but obviously it isn't like, you know, slutmog or lingerie. Has a bit of that, but this is what she'd be wearing just when she's in, you know, back home with her husband. So, well, I say thrown together because the pieces like overlap each other, right? So she has the lashed sort of holstered armbands that are her shawl that goes behind her back. She has the halter top, and then she has sort of the double wrapped skirt in front of her, or the dress gown that is basically just sort of, you know, held on or tucked in with elven magic, I suppose. So everyone knows Darnassus was lit on fire by the fireworks they shot off of the freaking base of the tree. Oh, of course. Malfurion doesn't deserve her. He sleeps all the time and talks to imaginary dream things. Wow. So this was her sort of nightgown at home. Look at the freaking the color palette here is ridiculous. All the different colors involved. So now we had to figure out how to make her Pandaren-ish like main robe gown. I don't even know where to start with this. There's too many concept pieces here for me to look at. Let me okay, that's not the right one. Neither is that. Well, I don't even know where we started here. So we have a whole bunch of layers. I'm just going to go through different parts of it. So this was her day one garb, which is very, very different in tone than this. So her day one garb was supposed to be a very obviously elven dress undertone, with a bit of sort of we have sort of an armored corset here, and then the wrappings, which there's multiple versions of the wrappings and different styles with or without, right? Do we want to put the little like Asian little dumpling bits in her hair? Do we want the blossoms in her hair or not? The laced shawl here stays in all the different ones. What kind of bracers and or gloves was she going to wear? So, but the overall was, it was like two halves, right? There was a under element that was elven, the lace, the white, the gemstone. The bottom part, there's two parts of this dress down here. There's the overskirt and the under part. This was going to be very elven in style. It actually had like elven runes that would animate out from the bottom. But then we didn't know if we wanted to have her, maybe she was armored a little bit or not. The middle part, this was a joke. This is not real. This is just like a Naru imprint. We didn't know what the symbol of a loon was going to be at the time. So it's going to be probably her moon symbol from Warcraft 3 in this regard. But these are multiple different versions with gloves, without gloves. I like the hair tassel bits. This is very sort of, and the flowers in her hair. She was making a statement when she walked in. So that's the impress the jury garb. The final day is the show them you mean business garb. Source M lawyer. Yeah. So again, that makes sense. At least you picked up on that. Different color palette swap. If you wanted to go with like a dark purple as well. Again, if there are other elements here, it's like a bluish that would match her hair, I guess, depending. There's a lot of little different pieces here. We also had a side-by-side with some different elements to change regarding... This is with the elven symbol. We actually changed it in this one. We have the little crescent moon with or without the gem ornamentation. So then we have the juxtaposition of her Malfurion garb, her casual stuff, and then her Verdict Day, Warcraft 3 inspired, battle ready. And then, of course, all that comes down to her key, which she's going to wear most of the time, which was going to be her final version here. This is the actual initial concept we had, and then this was the one we came down to. We had replaced a bit of the gloves are still yes or no. She takes off gloves in the trial, so she has to have something. These look kind of weird being flat and untextured kind of in a way, but we had changed the Pandaren wrappings. We kept the belt as sort of like this like sash, just like on her hips kind of a deal. But we made it now so that instead of being lined with like that sort of typical Pandaren rope motif, it was going back to the sort of elven feathering that would go down around the midsection of the dress and then taper off down the way here on the skirt. So you can see that better in this other one from earlier, which I looked at. This one here, just standalone of the dress change to have like this wispy, feathery, flowing gown to it as well. This is an early concept, right? Wasn't actually finished compared to this one here. But we also had an idea where she would have like those like half sandals kind of on with like a bit of like an ankle brace kind of a running up her leg a little bit, toes out, right? Asian themed kind of a deal. A lot of little elements with or without the extra hair pieces. She's actually not wearing Odangos, like her hair's not in there. They're just sort of like clipped on, but the extra ribboning is really a nice touch we had. So we really tried to put a lot into her because she had multiple costumes. She has 3 individual different costume changes. She'd wear this for most of the trial, and maybe she had different variants where she had these in day 1 and then not day 2 kind of a deal. Obviously the Tyrande, the Malfurion scene. Her hair is different in every scene as well, where it's very down, flowy, and open in her original like entrance kind of a scene, versus the final day where it's, you know, half braided, twisted, and able to be, you know, my brain is just full of all these different things to say right now. But damn, this one was the most work of all the ones. There was a bunch of art I didn't back up that was just concept sketch pieces like the like these. I didn't keep all of them or keep them in this folder to show off, but there were multiple ones, because this one that we had like a huge cloak we were gonna do, and this was like a crazy like open corset, so like, you know, cleavage and stomach and everything entitled there, and all this kind of stuff would play together, and that came down to this version, right? So we changed that up a little bit as well, but a lot of different potentials that we had built. Yeah, there's so many little details that we were trying to convey and connect, because again, Tyrande's been wearing almost the exact same gear in World of Warcraft. Wow, Tyrande. I mean, because she has this key dress that she's worn, right? This, which has like the overarching main like abdomen metal clasping and the armor on her shoulder and stuff. This is her in game. This is her in game. But she's had this on forever. Forever. And this like really gaudy headpiece that I've just always never liked. It's just, this is her Warcraft 3 art, right? So this is again from what we designed her new style. But again, it's like all the like way too scantily clad doesn't make any sense to me. I wanted to make a different statement. This is her in Here's the Storm, her default armor, which is way armored in comparison. So we had taken a lot of these little inspirations to try to figure out what she would be wearing. Again, this is her in the cinematic. She's wearing the same thing she's been wearing for years. She hasn't changed her armor in forever. So how do we adjust and figure out something that she would wear that would fit her character in this role? So that's the core dress she would wear on the trial day, and then of course the ending, and then the sort of Warcraft 3 inspired battle stuff. So yeah, I wonder if any guys know how uncomfortable sandals like that are. With the toes out, I don't know, probably terrible. Yeah. Most of the art is damn good. Well, this is all Frenona stuff from back in the day, and she's gotten so much better. I can't imagine what she would do for concept art now if we worked together again. But that's all the concept stuff. That was Anduin, the August Celestials, all 4 of them. The update to Bane, the update to Jaina, Kindi, Shokia, Taranzu, Vrisa, Vol'jin, the Tyrande concept art, the Illidari Tyrande, the updated Court variant, the Upside Down World Vol'jin, and then, of course, we had the Blackmoor Thrall Logosh variant. The last little bit of concept art I can show that Fabelina and I were working on was that we were trying to start getting in the realm of making movie posters. So, like, actually full-on gigantic movie posters, right? So we had 4 different little concepts that were built up here that were inspired by different styles of movie posters that are really prevalent right now. I really like number 1 here, the Garrosh face with Kairos and Warlord Zayla and Harrow-Mizer, his 3 little, like, lackeys. Well, Kairos isn't a lackey in this case, but he definitely ends like one. Or this one down here, Harrow-Mizer, Shokia, the Zeppelin that happens is a key part in the story. This is Warlord Zayla. We didn't have any updates for Warlord Zayla yet because we just didn't get to him, right? Kairos is standing right here behind Garrosh. Then one with, like, the Dragon Kairos version as a backdrop, and then Garrosh in the front, or like the whole dark portal bit and Garrosh. Just different ideas. These are Fabelina. She drew these up. Really short sketches that we were trying to figure out what we were going to make for like an actual movie poster that could be part of the promo and merch for this whole short. So I would love to help to pinpoint down on Bane's look and features. I don't know if I have any position to influence on that. Well, I mean, this is stuff that's not going to be talked about for a while or figured out again, because a lot of this art will be reused as new inspiration, but obviously we would have different ideas and thoughts going forward to figure out what we would want to do with the project. Looking through all my other folders here to make sure I didn't forget anything. Oh, we have some initial concepts for breaking down the in-game terrain. This is from one of my 3D artists I was working with, Sebastian, at the time. This is trying to figure out how the game codes terrain and how to pull the chunks of terrain out of the game, one quadrant at a time. So, pulling out the internal of the Temple of the White Tiger. The Temple of the White Tiger in the actual game is not like how it is talked about in the book. So we would have to restructure parts of the temple to actually have the rooms and the internal structure work with how the book describes how the trial takes place. So, like, these are like bleachers that the people would sit in, but how do you even get to them? Because there are big scenes where people are walking in and walking up to the stands. How do you even get to these? There's no way to get to them in game. So, like, restructuring the internal model to make it work was going to be a thing. And obviously this is like where the huge platform that the temple sits on and the arcing points of it. These are huge, huge maps of the game, right? These are where all the little pagodas are sitting. It's such a crazy undertaking to do it in the 3D world that that's why it was such a big project. And the more and more I talk about it, the more I think that maybe the 2.5D art would be a little better. So, heroic leap people up. Shimmy up the pole. I don't know about that. But we went over logo art. We went over a little 3D stuff. We went over all the concept art. whatever the 3D stuff that Christopher Ayres had put together, the visuals, a bit of the audio teaser stuff. I walked you through the... Oh, this was the intro timeline shot, because we have the actual intro to the piece. We had to slowly storyboard out like what each shot was going to be in the intro piece. So this is going to be a thing where what kind of camera movements we had, what we're showing in the opening. There were so many little pieces of this that were all put together. Again, we had the broken down major points that Nobbel put down here, and then we were working through with Letomi on what major points to actually bring through and which ones are really important, which ones aren't important, because not all of them would be translated into the actual narrative. So there's a lot. In the last 2.5 hours or so, we've gone through a whole bunch of stuff. So if you guys have any questions or comments about things, we'll definitely get to those, and then we can wrap this all up. I have some shout outs for the resubs and stuff during the stream today, but that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Even though all I got is a lot. So what do you think about stuff and things? Good touch, good stroke. Whoa, doing the damn commands. But over the course of the stream, Bronze, thank you for the 11 months in a row. Blank for 15. Letomi for the 30 months. Infamous Maverick for 23. We had Vind for the 4. Luke Onetic for the 27. Trenchfoot for 37 months. Dr. Fumbler sneaking in with the 5 months there. And then we had Neo for 8 months. Right there at the end there. Make a GoFundMe. See where it gets you. See, there's... maybe. I don't know if it'd be GoFundMe, though. Because GoFundMe, there's Kickstarter, and there's Indiegogo. And they all have different reasonings and points for what they do. So I would have to figure out which one. You also have to make a production, like... I was going to say production biography. But you want to put together a production portfolio. There's the word. Because you need, like, a trailer. You need all this monetary stuff worked out. You definitely have to build where all of the steps would go and where the funding goes and lock in different points. I think the back line of this, what I've learned about openly talking about today for 2 hours, is that I need to figure out where what the point would be. Are we trying to do the 3D machinima style? Are we going to do the 2.5D art style? And then we have to lock in that first. So regardless of what you pick, see where it gets you. Do you have anything for Kalik? I can't see you were satisfied. Oh, Kalik again was a model we hadn't got to yet. Like again, we didn't go get to updating Warlord Zayla. We didn't go for Caligos for Kalik. So there were a couple of characters that just hadn't gotten to yet because, you know, by the time that artists were working on certain things, we hadn't gotten to all the different checklists. We hadn't gotten through all the character designs. So all of that was just as far as we had got before a lot of it sort of wounded down to I couldn't go forth it anymore because there wasn't the monetary backing for moving forward anymore. So yeah. I can talk to you about that, I guess, later, Chica. That wasn't really tied to this stream. You can always add it somehow to Patreon. Maybe. I guess so. It just comes down to like how to get the support for something of this magnitude, I guess. Because there's a lot to figure out and go over and talk about. Need to find some programmers to make the modeler. The estimated costs, if we're going to do the 3D version, would probably be around like $50,000 to $60,000 just to really make sure we had the budget for it. A lot of that comes into not the 3D. It comes into the art and the voice acting art involved. So, but it goes hand in hand. I don't know. The more I talk about it, I think the more it makes sense to do the 2.5D style, because we could have a little more control over the scenes. As much as I think it would be amazing as a machinima, basically putting together an hour and a half roughly of machinima after even creating the tools needed would be a huge undertaking. Like, because we do mocap, do we not do mocap? How many artists are working on what scenes? Is the quality of those 3D modelers tandem between all of them, that they can all produce the same quality? Are they all able to get sort of to that, WoW in-game cinematic style? How do we get all of that 3D stuff working? So, Dritz, thank you for the hardcore tier 1 sub right there. Hi. Oh, yo, son, how's it going? I don't see Sylvanas dying or Sarfang challenging her, but I can see her stepping down as war chief to help her people and rebuild blah, blah, blah. Thoughts? Well, that's a totally different topic, Dritz. I don't want to tirade too much off of different things right now. So the focus of today's stream right now would be, and is going to stay to Warcrimes stuff. What is the next step now, aside from funding, that you can, if you went through with it right now? Well, there's no way I can go through it right now because we have BFA launching in a week and a half or whatever. So I only have so much. I have to prioritize what steps I'm taking in my other content to keep paying the bills before I move forward with anything else. So I don't know. The first step, I think, is to figure out, is it going to be a 3D piece, a machinima, or a sort of 2 to 2.5D art rendered piece, like the Harbingers or the Warbringers shorts, basically. Because both of those present their major problems and hurdles, but they also present a possibility of great things in either regard. Stylizing one in still art, versus the other in 3D would be very different. So, in the perfect world, how long will this take you to complete? That just depends on that overall. That depends on many factors. I can't really give you an estimate. Like the 2.5D style, how many artists do we have making the shots? Like I said before, if it was like one artist, that would probably take them a year. And that's just to draw everything, essentially. Then it has to be edited and animated together. There needs to be scoring. There needs to be compositional work. There needs to be sound design. There needs to obviously be all the scripting work. So I don't know. It's something that I don't know how to put a time frame on, because it depends on what is the core goal of the piece entirely. So it's 7 days, 23 hours to BFA. Oh, so literally a week and a day. I'll talk to you soon, Letomi. Thank you for stopping by today. Cinema is much more easy to watch. Not everyone is willing to just sit down and read a still art anymore. No. What do you mean, Dr. Fumbler? What do you mean? There'd be no reading involved. There could be subtitles on some sequences, but no, there's no reading. If the 2.5D style would be fully voiced, just like what the Harbingers or the Warbringers or, whatever, like what Blizzard has done. So, oh gosh, Prawn's here. Blizzard made that Zappy Boy cinematic in 1 week in response to Warbringers. You're totally right. That's totally true. It wasn't made over a year ago. The current style of WoW cinema with the Warbringers would be cool. Well, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, there'd be no reading. It'd all be voice acted. It would all be voice acted. Yeah. But I think that's the main thing to think about firsthand. And when that could happen and how that would happen and what artists would be involved, how many artists would be involved. So that's the biggest problem, is that I don't have a production house or whatever. So that style was only recently brought forth to the Blizzard community, so I'm stumped as to which one to go after. Well, I don't know if it's recently. It's the 2.5D stuff started with Emperor Xiaohao, the Tales of Xiaohao in MOP. So it's been MOP, and then it was the Warlords stories. Then it was the Harbingers for Legion, and then it was the Warbringers for Battle for Azeroth. So it's been 4 iterations of those. Yeah. Real talk, your analysis of the cinematic was really good. I missed so many things, though. I never saw Xiaohao and Warlord stories, so forgive me on that then. Oh, that's fair. I mean, you can go watch them. They're just on YouTube. They're on the Warcraft YouTube channel. So, I think that's the biggest thing to figure out. Because it would be a project that wouldn't be my... Because the thing is, to go back on your question again about the timeline, obviously I couldn't just stop doing what I'm doing here, right? Like, I'm not going to stop live shows or stop live streaming. So, all of that production would sort of be happening just sort of piece by piece, day by day, slowly over time. You eke out a little time here, a little time there. So it would all just take small bits of time as the years go by, basically, as the days go by, or how long it goes, right? So, and it's a timeless piece. It doesn't matter when we tell this, right? It's still a really good story in that moment, but it's what Nobbel said originally, you know, like an hour and a half ago or whatever, is do I feel that this can be made and put together, and do I even think it should or needs to be, other than like just a, you know, personal goal, right? So you only watch the stories I'm playing in game for, and Mists and Warlords lore is kind of irrelevant at this point anyhow. But that's the thing, like, this story isn't just the Warcrimes story. It tells the side story of the Sylvanas and the sisters before the recent stuff. It tells the Jaina Kindi Tides of War side story. It shows the Helsing, the Helsing short story that you don't know unless you read the actual text on the WoW website. And of course it tells the entire Warlords preamble, the end of MOP into Warlords, why all of that happened in the first place, the time travel in World of Warcraft, the alternate dimensional heroes that come into play, the upside down heroes we talked about, right? Illidari, Tyrande, and what that exist. Because people in the game thought that time travel was so weird in World of Warcraft in the game sense, but it had been done before. Like, there was time travel madness in the story that led up to the story that had time travel in it, and that's the weird part that I would love to illustrate. So people would rather believe Blizzard spent millions in a week to make people happy than realize or admit that Blizzard did all of this on purpose, and that even from BFA announcement trailer that Sarfang only wears one shoulder piece, that Zappy Boy has the other shoulder piece. What do you mean? No, they both have the left shoulder on. Yeah, the Hell Scream short story. Yeah, Helsing Ultimate? Yeah, exactly. Even as a personal goal, it's still very much worth doing, something you can hang your hat on. You never know what might branch from it. Yeah. Didn't Anduin get a weapon from a possible alternate timeline Anduin that gets killed? Yeah, there's no Doppelganger Anduin that comes into play there too. There's Doppelganger. There's a couple other characters that have Doppelgangers that come through, or the flip side characters that, yeah. There's just more bits that aren't illustrated there yet, so... Yeah, Illidari Tyrande. Did you not see Illidari Tyrande? It's not real in our timeline. There's a reverse timeline that happens in the Warcrimes story that when Kairos opens a portal, a whole bunch of characters from other timelines that have different paths come through. So Illidari Tyrande is a Tyrande Whisperwind that actually chooses Illidan instead of Malfurion. There's Logosh Varian. It's all in this, video. It's back a little ways when I go through all the concept art we put together. There's the Logosh Varian that actually just is Logosh, no longer is King Varian Rin. There was Blackmoor Thrall, that was a thrall that never became a shaman, that was always a slave and a gladiator to Blackmoor. There was, there's the flip side Anduin. There's the Shadow Hunter, sort of like Voodoo Vol'jin, that never became a war chief or whatever. So, yeah. So there are other characters that come into play there So I'm not sure, but I think we'll wrap this up here. It's been almost 3 hours, but I had the 2 special guests. We talked about a lot of stuff. Had to show off a bunch of stuff. I went through everything in the folder, I'm pretty sure. But I think that's pretty much all I have to share about this project. The potential of it and all the work that was done and still has yet to be done if it was to become a thing. But again, thanks to all the butts. I don't really do any subscriber chat stuff, even though these sub goals streams like the special today are obviously because of all these nerds down here. So let's go over to this screen. So thank you very much for making this possible. Of course, we'll keep moving forward with BFA content and stuff like that. And the Warcrimes potential will always be there. And we'll see about working towards moving forward with it. Just depends on if it becomes a possibility. There are definitely other things that are to take priority right now, like the BFA launch and the Epic WoW Battles of History Season 2. And some other small side projects to get underway. But more on all of that, of course, later. Thank you very much for listening. I'll hit this button just to wrap up the show properly. Well, of course, I will see you all very soon. The live shows, if you made it all the way through, are not going to start until like mid to late September when raiding has actually happened. And every single spec gets their own show. So there's roughly like 40-ish shows planned for Battle for Azeroth to begin with. So 36 spec shows. A few catch-up shows later on after the first whole junket is done. Then there'll be 3 world firsts, considering there are 3 raid tiers if there are. There may be like 1 or 2 MDI shows if there are MDIs happening during BFA. There'll be a few community spotlight specials, I'm sure. So that is how that will slowly build over time. But that's that. Let me go double check my outro screen to make sure it's working properly. And it is not. Wait, what? It's like broken. What's happening here? There we go. I don't know what's going on. Apply changes? I just said apply changes. Wait. Help me. If I can do this properly, apply scene changes. There we go. I'll see you all in the next episode. I'll see you on the live streams. Thank you very much for watching and listening. A lot of stuff to go over. But thank you for making this all possible. That's the bottom line.